I time-traveled to ancient times to open a restaurant, and I became a god with just a microwave and pre-made meals. While other chefs work from dawn to dusk, my secret dishes just need a 3-minute ding. My fridge has an endless supply, and my customers go absolutely crazy for just one bite of my heavenly diced chicken. The martial arts grandmaster refuses to leave, and the princess insists on investing in my new branch. That is, until the day my poor microwave finally broke down from overwork. But right now, I was just stressing out over my failing takeout shop, when suddenly, a loud shout came from outside. "Hey, boss, is anybody here? Hurry up and bring me some food. I am starving." Just as Yuji was buried in his thoughts, a booming voice completely shattered the quiet of the shop. Okay, coming right up. What would you like to eat? We guarantee your food in 20 minutes or it's completely free. Yuji put away his phone and rattled off his usual greeting. But the moment he looked up, he completely froze. His modern little storefront had miraculously transformed into an antique, traditional tavern. Classic wooden square tables, an old elm staircase, big red lanterns hanging high above. Everything felt so incredibly strange, yet somehow familiar. Where the hell was he? Wasn't he just in his takeout shop? And the customer standing right in front of him was wearing a full, ancient robe. Did he accidentally stumble onto a movie set or something? Or was he just sleep-deprived and hallucinating? Boss, what are you staring at? Hurry up and get me some food. Just bring me whatever you have. I'm not picky. Seeing Yuji just standing there, the customer urged him impatiently. Oh, right away. Coming right up. Yuji nodded vigorously. He scrambled towards the kitchen. Real or not, he definitely needed to splash some water on his face to wake up. As he entered the kitchen, he grabbed the fridge door, pulling out a pack of their best-selling and most overstocked item, Kung Pao chicken. He snipped the bag open, dumped it on a plate, and tossed it into the microwave, all in one smooth motion. Buzz. With the microwave humming away, Yuji finally took a second to turn on the tap and splash cold water on his face. After calming down a bit, he gathered his courage and stepped back out of the kitchen. Fluorescent lights, glass doors, the ceiling fan. It was his familiar old shop. The familiar smell. Was he really just hallucinating earlier? That customer wasn't real. Wait, if the customer wasn't real, then I just heated up that Kung Pao chicken for nothing. Ah, whatever. I'll just eat it myself. I haven't even had dinner yet anyway. Sighing heavily, Yuji dragged himself back into the kitchen. Exactly 3.5 minutes later, the food was piping hot. A mouth-watering aroma wafted from the microwave. Yuji grabbed his chopsticks and popped a piece of chicken into his mouth. I gotta say, for a pre-packaged meal, this is actually pretty damn good. God knows how many artificial additives are packed in here. Meanwhile, out in the dining room, after Yuji had gone to the kitchen, the starving customer was left completely alone in the lobby, his stomach growling loudly. Wang Zhen clutched his stomach in absolute agony. If he hadn't been starving to death, he never would have stepped foot into a dingy, no-name shack like this. I knew I shouldn't have taken this stupid shortcut. This rundown place has no decent food and nowhere to sleep. It's a total scam. If I had just taken the main road, I'd probably be kicking back in a fancy tavern by now, eating delicious food, not to mention the neighboring town. That restaurant over there really has some pretty tasty dishes. They even bring out new items every now and then, which totally hits the spot for foodies like us. But this place? So rundown and broke. Wang Zhen cast a deeply dissatisfied glance at the restaurant's layout. 5 small tables and 1 large one, making 6 in total. And they're absolutely filthy, covered in a thick layer of dust. You can even see cobwebs hanging in the corners. It's obvious no one has cleaned this place in ages. Or worse, no one has eaten here in ages. And a dump like this promises food in 20 minutes? They're probably just boiling up some wild grass mush. Is this stuff gonna kill me? But, if I don't eat, I'll starve to death anyway. This is so frustrating. Fine, whatever. I'll just make do and fill my stomach for now. Once I get back to the capital, I am definitely going to treat myself to a massive feast at the Taifeng restaurant. Wait, where is that amazing smell coming from? Am I so hungry I'm hallucinating? How could a dump like this smell so good? Wang Zhen opened his eyes, only to lock gazes with Yuji. The man had a plate in one hand, and chopsticks holding a piece of diced chicken in the other. Right as he was about to pop it into his mouth, their eyes met. The silence was painfully awkward. Boss, what exactly are you doing? Wang Zhen pointed at Yuji's hand, absolutely dumbfounded. In this day and age, is there actually an owner who eats the customer's food right in front of them? This is beyond ridiculous. Oh, it's nothing, sir. I was just checking if it was fully cooked for you. Yuji hurriedly slammed his chopsticks down. You really couldn't blame him for sneaking a bite. A moment ago, he genuinely thought he was hallucinating, figuring it'd be a waste not to eat it. Because honestly, this was just a pre-packaged microwave meal. I wouldn't even feed this to a dog. Who knew that the moment he stepped out of the kitchen, he'd be teleported back to this bizarre place? Never mind that. Slurp. What kind of dish is this? Wang Zhen's attention was already completely captivated by the plate in Yu Ji's hands. The aroma was absolutely overpowering. The food on the plate had a brilliant, mouth-watering red glaze. Every single piece was distinct, with the chunks of meat perfectly coated in a rich, thick sauce. It was paired with crisp green cucumbers and beautifully roasted, golden peanuts. Just the sight of it was enough to make anyone drool. Kung Pao chicken. Have you never tried it, sir? Yu Ji asked, looking a bit confused as he set the plate down in front of Wang Zhen. Kung Pao chicken is such a basic home-cooked meal. Literally everyone makes it at home. I mean, sure it's tasty, but is it really worth drooling over? Not to mention, I didn't even cook this from scratch. It's literally just a pre-packaged meal. God only knows how many artificial chemicals are packed into this stuff. Yet this guy acts like it's a gourmet feast. Did I seriously just teleport to another world? No, I haven't, Wang Zhen replied. This is my first time seeing a dish with such perfect color, aroma, and taste. It smells incredible. Wang Zhen couldn't wait any longer and snatched up a piece of chicken. The moment it hit his tongue, his eyes shot wide open. This flavor, it was as if a living chicken was dancing right on the tip of his tongue. The tender, juicy meat melted instantly, flooding his entire mouth with the rich, savory taste of chicken. It was unbelievably delicious, and it wasn't just the chicken. Those bright green cucumbers were perfectly crisp and incredibly refreshing. They perfectly balanced the oil, making it rich without being heavy. As for the rest of the ingredients, he had no idea what they were. But they were so wonderfully crunchy and incredibly tasty. Man, if I only had a jug of fine wine right now, I'd be happier than a living god. But after glancing over at the completely empty counter, Wang Zhen quickly dropped the thought. For a little countryside shop, having just one dish that blows you away is already pretty darn good. I wouldn't dare expect anything else. And let's be real, Yu Ji's place doesn't even sell booze. After all, his main gig is takeout. What kind of normal takeout spot sells liquor anyway? As long as you're happy with it, sir. Seeing Wang Zhen stuffing his face so happily, Yu Ji actually felt a little embarrassed. A 5 yuan bag of prepackaged food really didn't deserve all this praise. That mouthwatering smell was probably just some artificial flavoring. As for how ridiculously tender the chicken was, who knows what kind of crazy chemical food hacks they pumped into it. But the scariest part was the shelf life of this meal packet. It was a solid 2 years long. And it had already been a year and a half. Just thinking about all the preservatives needed to make it last 2 years made him shudder. But hey, you get what you pay for. 5 yuan a bag, complete with meat and veggies. As long as it didn't kill anyone, it honestly deserved a round of applause. So good, so freaking good. I've never had anything this delicious in my life. Give me another plate. No, wait, bring me 10 more plates. Wang Zhen swiftly licked the plate clean and demanded like a boss. The food is amazing, but the portion size is seriously way too small. As for the price, he definitely wasn't short on cash. You got it, coming right up. Seeing Wang Zhen lick the plate completely spotless, Yu Ji figured the guy was just starving out of his mind and didn't say much else. He quickly agreed and headed straight back to the kitchen. He opened the fridge, snipped the packaging, plated the food, and tossed it into the microwave. 30 seconds to defrost, 3 minutes to heat. The whole routine was so painfully familiar it was almost sad. With 10 microwaves running all at once, Yu Ji finally had a moment to think about what was so different about walking out of those doors lately. It seemed to have a lot to do with which door he used. Since the kitchen was pretty big, Yu Ji's back kitchen had 2 doors on the left and right. One led straight out to the storefront. Walking out that way brought you to the normal shop. The other door, however, took a turn, coming out from under the stairs. It was originally built just to make it easier to head upstairs to sleep. Who would have thought a freak accident would happen, and it could actually teleport him to ancient times? So he poked his head out and tested it a few more times. Sure enough, stepping out the door to the front led straight to his normal modern-day takeout spot. But stepping out through the door under the stairs teleported him to some unknown ancient era. He had actually freaking time-traveled. Ding, 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 ding. The rapid beeping of the microwave snapped Yu Ji right out of his dazed shock. He straightened his clothes and pulled the 10 plates of Kung Pao chicken out of the microwaves. Whatever the deal was, he had to serve this crazy customer and get him out of here first. Everything else could wait. Once he closed up shop, he'd have plenty of time to figure this out. Carrying the massive tray out of the kitchen, Yu Ji ended up staring awkwardly right at Wang Zhen, who was still aggressively licking his plate. Sir, there's really no need for that. Seriously, no need. Yu Ji kept a polite smile on his face, but inside he was roasting the guy alive. This dude looks all dressed up and proper, but why the hell is he acting like he hasn't eaten in 8 lifetimes? How many freaking times is he gonna lick that same plate? Ha ha ha, boss, you sure whip up these dishes fast, huh? Wang Zhen said, looking a little embarrassed himself. He is usually never like this. Even with the fancy dishes at the capital's Taifeng restaurant, the most he'd do is clear his plate. How could he possibly be licking the plate here? Say what you will, he is a man of high status. Licking a plate? Under normal circumstances, he would absolutely never do something like this. But it couldn't be helped. The food in this little shop is just way too fragrant, way too delicious. Especially that sauce. The more you look at it, the more you crave it. Before he knew it, he just started licking. Oh, it's just average. Our shop mainly focuses on speed. Sir, your 10 plates of Kung Pao chicken are all served. Would you like to order anything else? Yu Ji kept a straight face too. He was a trained professional. No matter how funny something was, he wouldn't laugh. He could still hold it together for a small scene like this. Of course, if Wang Zhen kept licking, well, all bets were off. No need. Wait, do you have rice here? Wang Zhen waved his hand dismissively. A little rustic shop like this, having one signature dish was already pretty impressive, especially seeing how fast the food came out. He figured this Kung Pao chicken was their only real specialty. Wang Zhen definitely wouldn't care for any of their other dishes, but thinking about that rich sauce, mixing it with rice seemed like a fantastic choice. Yes, we do, sir. We have it. Yu Ji nodded eagerly. The white rice could be said to be his shop's only non-pre-packaged item. After all, you have to factor in the cost. And it's so easy to make, there's no need to use the instant stuff. Especially this rice. He had specifically learned how to make it from a master chef. Soaking it in hot water in a wooden bucket, adding 2 or 3 drops of sesame oil, and steaming it with 1 or 2 slices of his secret recipe sausage. Not those cheap, pre-packaged hot dogs, but the authentic, home-brewed kind. Picking out premium pork, mincing it, and stuffing it into pork casings. Top-tier sausage, sun-dried for exactly 81 days. Rice steamed with this kind of sausage would carry a hint of sweetness. And an even richer meaty aroma. It was absolutely mouth-watering. Of course, the rice grains themselves were carefully chosen too. He used the ordinary yet extraordinary Wuchang rice. The rice steamed from it was crystal clear and intensely fragrant. The texture was soft yet firm, sweet, and incredibly satisfying. Every single grain was distinct. It could truly be called the absolute best of rice. Of course, the main point was that it was delicious and affordable. You couldn't really compare it to the absolute highest-end rice out there. But it totally won on pure value. And the most crucial part was, the cooking vessel wasn't a standard rice cooker, but a custom-made, high-end wooden bucket. The bucket rice steamed in this kind of wood carried its own unique, wonderful aroma. With these 3 elements combined, the aftertaste was truly endless. This was also why, even though they used pre-made dishes, his takeout could sell over 1,000 orders a day. Some people came purely just for a bite of this rice, and others, even though they didn't realize the rice was the secret. With the rice elevating it, the pre-made dishes tasted even more delicious. So they naturally ended up falling in love with his takeout. At this hour, there wasn't much business going on anyway, so he simply took out all the rice that had been kept warm the entire day, filled up a massive bowl, and said, "Sir, your rice is here." So, he just set the rice on the table next to him. He had no choice. Wang Zhen's table was already packed with 10 plates of Kung Pao chicken. The table was too small to fit anything else anyway. Wang Zhen, who was happily stuffing his face, took a quick second to glance over. You know what they say, ignorance is bliss. Because that one look nearly gave him a heart attack. Rice, pure white rice, an entire massive tub of pure white rice, a giant tub of fluffy white rice, placed right in front of him. His throat completely tightened up, and he nearly choked to death on the food in his mouth. Sir, what's wrong? Is the portion too big? Don't worry about it. You can just use a spoon to scoop some into your bowl. Just eat as much as you can. Yu Ji figured he was just overwhelmed by the sheer mountain of rice. And honestly, fair enough. 11 plates of Kung Pao chicken, even with small portions. That was way more than what a normal guy could eat. Add in a giant tub of rice on top of that? It would probably make someone explode from overeating. Oh well, whatever. I'll just use the leftovers to make egg fried rice tomorrow. Egg fried rice is always way better with overnight rice anyway. No. I just wanted to point out. Are you actually serving pure white rice here? Wang Zhen took a moment to catch his breath. He finally managed to swallow the food caught in his throat. Well, yeah, what else would I use? Yu Ji replied. What else am I supposed to use besides white rice? Yu Ji scratched his head, feeling completely baffled. Is this town of yours really that wealthy? Since you're running a restaurant here, your main customers have to be the local commoners. In this day and age, pure white rice isn't something just anyone can afford. Most everyday folks can only afford cheap millet. Saying they're surviving on husks and weeds might be a bit of an exaggeration, but there's no way they're eating pure white rice for every single meal. Anyone eating pure white rice every day has to be from a filthy rich family. Even a standard 7th rank official. If he's an honest man and doesn't take bribes, even he has to stretch his meals by mixing rice with coarse grains. How could anyone afford pure white rice for every single meal? A massive tub of white rice like this definitely isn't cheap. For a moment, Wang Zhen actually started sweating over his own wallet. I mean, even if you're totally flat broke, it's not like you can't even afford basic white rice, right? Yu Ji was utterly speechless. I get not being able to afford takeout, but if you're seriously starving to death, you can just knock on any random door and ask for a bowl of white rice. Nobody is gonna be stingy about a bowl of rice. Wait a minute, this was basically the ancient era. After all, compared to Yu Ji's time, the era where every single household could afford pure white rice had barely even crossed the 50-year mark. And that was all thanks to Grandpa Yuan's hard work. Without him, there's no way people could just treat eating white rice for every meal as something so totally normal. But I guess, since he had grown up eating it his entire life, he sometimes forgot that this kind of luxury wasn't just a given. It was the result of incredible hard work. By the way, I forgot to ask, how much is this meal? Having choked yet again on Yu Ji's shockingly casual tone, Wang Zhen was starting to panic a little. Let me do the math. The Kung Pao chicken is $10 a plate, so 11 plates comes out to 110. We'll just call the whole tub of rice $5. So, that'll be 115 in total. Eating at the restaurant was always cheaper than getting takeout. Usually, takeout ran about $12, while dining in was just 10. It completely cut out the pesky middleman fees, so even with the lower price, he actually ended up making a bigger profit. 115 copper coins? It's that cheap? Wang Zhen was absolutely stunned. With how insanely delicious this Kung Pao chicken was, if it were sold at some high-end place like Taifeng restaurant in the capital, they'd easily have the guts to charge 100 coins for a single plate. This whole meal, he honestly figured it would cost him at least a whole tael of silver. Who would have ever thought that a dozen meat dishes and a huge bowl of rice would only cost a little over 1 mace of silver? This is an absolute steal. Well, you can look at it that way, Yu Ji thought. He originally wanted to tell him it was 115 yuan. But considering they were in ancient times, he just rolled with it. Right now, he just wanted to shoo the guy away as soon as possible, so he could figure out what the hell was going on. Alright, 115 coins, right? Here's a solid tael of silver. Set up a room for me to crash in, and keep the change as a tip. Wang Zhen happily pulled out a tael of silver and smacked it down onto the table. Sorry man, we only serve food here. No overnight stays. Are you kidding me? This place of his was way too creepy. How could he possibly let someone sleep over? What if his secret got exposed? That would be way too dangerous. It's totally fine, just throw me anywhere to sleep. I can pay extra, you know. Wang Zhen happily munched on his Kung Pao chicken, completely clueless to the real issue. Paying extra won't work either. Please finish up quickly, sir. Our little shop is closing up. Yu Ji's face was dead serious. To him, 1 tael of silver or 1 mace of silver didn't make much of a difference. It wasn't modern currency anyway, so he had zero concept of its value. Now, if it was gold, he might be a little tempted, but he would still firmly say no. Absolutely nothing was more important than his secret. Well, alright then. Seeing how firm Yu Ji was, Wang Zhen couldn't really argue. Even though it was getting pretty late, guys like him were used to roughing it in the elements. Sleeping out in the wild was no big deal. Getting a massive, incredibly delicious meal today was already more than enough to satisfy him. This food is insanely good. And man, even the rice is amazing. This plain white rice seemed 100 times better than any he had ever eaten. It had this rich, savory aroma, and every single grain was perfectly distinct, with just the right texture. But wait, wasn't this just plain white rice? How good could a simple bowl of rice really be? It had to be his imagination. Yeah, definitely his imagination. The dishes were just so good they tricked his brain. Wang Zhen shook his head, deciding that the amazing taste of the rice was all thanks to the mouth-watering Kung Pao chicken. He ate like an absolute machine. In barely an hour, he completely wiped out 10 plates of food and the entire basin of rice. And just as he was about to start licking the plates clean, Yu Ji kicked him out. The moment the shop doors closed, Yu Ji finally let out a massive sigh of relief. At last, he had a moment to really take a good look around this completely bizarre ancient tavern. The layout was actually pretty basic. 5 small tables that could only fit 4 people each, plus 1 long table that could squeeze in about 10 people if they pushed together. The rest of the space was just a front counter directly facing the door, and a set of stairs leading up. There seemed to be a backyard behind the shop, so Yu Ji went back to check it out first. The backyard was quite spacious, complete with a horse stable and a grinding stone. There were also a few small buildings, looking exactly like a classic ancient inn. But the craziest part was that the backyard actually had a door leading to the kitchen. Walking through it, he found himself staring at a legit, old-school ancient kitchen. The whole place was completely covered in thick cobwebs and a heavy layer of dust. Looks like no one has been here for years. The stove is so bare, even the mice have packed up and left. It seemed that some sort of space-time distortion had caused the back door of his kitchen to connect with the kitchen door of this ancient inn. After checking out the kitchen, he went upstairs for a quick look around. There wasn't anything special up there. A dozen or so rooms sat completely empty, all heavily draped in thick cobwebs. Coming up here in the dead of night, you would think it was a haunted house. After walking around, feeling a cold chill creeping up his spine, Yuji hurried downstairs and back into his own kitchen. Seeing his familiar, brightly lit kitchen finally brought back a hint of homey warmth. Modern life is just better. He simply tossed the plates into the dishwasher, then returned to his big, warm bed and slept like an absolute log. He slept straight through to the afternoon. When he woke up and checked the time, the lunch rush was already over. Yuji didn't bother opening up the shop for the day. He had something much more important to do. Over at Antique Street, Yuji weighed the 15 copper coins and a piece of broken silver in his hand. Even though Wang Zhen had tried really hard to just give him a whole tael of silver, he refused to take it. You don't accept a reward you haven't earned. Since they had agreed on a price, then that was the price. If he really wanted to make more money, he could just raise his prices next time. He was no shady merchant. His shop had always clearly displayed its prices. It wasn't some rip-off joint. And he didn't scam people. After taking a stroll down the street, he picked an antique shop that looked decent and walked right in. Ancient money was still just ancient money, after all. If he wanted to exchange it for modern cash, he had to see what the exchange rate was like. Looking to buy something, sir? The owner of the antique shop was an elderly man, with a cheerful vibe who looked very easy to talk to. Not buying anything. I have a few items I was hoping you could help me take a look at, boss. Yuji didn't beat around the bush. He directly handed over the copper coins and the piece of silver to the old man. Tisk, young man, mind if I ask where you got these from? Are they a family heirloom or? The boss merely glanced at them before asking hesitantly. Bought them, Yuji lied. Bought them as antiques? The boss asked again. You could say that, Yuji nodded. He did plan to sell them as antiques. They were items from ancient times, after all. Oh, then forgive me for being blunt. Young man, you probably bought fakes. The boss shook his head, looking quite sympathetic as he spoke. Fakes? No way. Yuji was a bit stunned. Did he really just stumble onto a movie set last night? But when he went out today, he had taken a look around. Last night definitely wasn't a dream. The inn was still there. Yeah, if you bought these as antiques, you were definitely sold fakes. Just take a look at this great Qian copper coin. Let's not even talk about the calligraphy on it. If we look back through history, in all our 5,000 years, when has there ever been a dynasty named Qian? Besides, the most important thing to look at with antiques is the level of oxidation. These coins are so shiny and new, they were definitely forged less than 20 years ago. I gotta say, these fakes are just way too obvious. They didn't even try to put any budget into making them. And young man, you are way too easy to fool, aren't you? Man, I don't even know where to begin with this. You didn't spend too much on it, did you? At this point, the boss was looking at Yuji like he was a total idiot. How on earth did he have the guts to buy something so obviously fake? Not much, really. Just spent about 115 bucks. Yuji was completely dumbfounded. He honestly hadn't thought about that part at all. But, I mean, it made sense. Real antiques have survived the test of time to actually become antiques. He literally grabbed these straight out of that era. How old could they possibly be? They'd need to sit and age for centuries. Well, so much for his big idea of flipping ancient goods for cash. It totally went down the drain. Oh, well, it wasn't that expensive. Still a loss though. Just, not an outrageous one. The boss kept his friendly smile. What do you mean by that? Yuji was still a bit confused. Look, even though this stuff isn't old, the copper is real and the silver is real too. Right now, copper goes for about 85 bucks a kilo and silver is over 10 grand a kilo. Your coins and silver pieces aren't pure, but you could still scrape together 50 or 60 bucks for them. You're taking a 50% cut, but take it to a bullion shop and they'll take it off your hands. But of course, if you're trying to pass it off as a genuine antique, then you've taken a massive beating, the boss pointed out kindly. Right. Thanks for the heads up, boss. If he could get 50 or 60 for it, the loss wasn't too bad. It covered the cost of those pre-packaged meals anyway. But the problem was, he didn't make any profit either. Leaving the antique shop, Yuji hit up a few more places. But he got the exact same story everywhere, instantly deflating his mood. He was really hoping to rake in some serious cash. Now, he'd have to drop that pipe dream. If he wanted to make money, he'd have to hike up the food prices. There was just no other way to turn a solid profit. It was absolute garbage. Why the hell was making money so difficult? He literally had a cheat code to travel back in time. Yet he was still struggling to make a quick buck. It was so pathetic it was almost funny. By the time he got back to the shop, it was already around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. He wasn't planning on taking any more takeout orders for the day. But as for the situation on the other side, Yuji decided he needed to figure out exactly what was going on. Even if it meant zero profit, he had to secure the other side. Otherwise, if someone managed to sneak through the portal, the whole world would be thrown into absolute chaos. Maybe he should just barricade the door? Yuji stared at the back kitchen door, seriously tempted to seal the damn thing shut. Thankfully, logic won over his impulse. He needed to gather some intel first. He had to find out exactly where this place was. The inn looked just as old and dusty as it did last night. He walked up to the entrance and pulled the heavy doors open. After a heavy thud, a tiny little figure scrambled up from the floor in a panic. "Oh, I'm so sorry. Boss, I totally didn't mean to do that." The small figure was bowing frantically in apology. "Wait, who are you?" The person standing in front of him was scrawny and tiny, looking no older than 13 or 14. But Yuji clearly had no idea who he was. "I'm from the next village over. You can just call me Little Chin. Master Wong gave me a piece of silver and told me to wait right here until you opened up. He wanted me to ask you why you were opening your doors so incredibly late. Serves your shop right for having zero business. I'm so sorry. Young Master Wong made me say that." Little Chin blurted out, his face pale with absolute terror. He was terrified Yuji was going to beat him up. "It's fine. Tell me exactly what happened." Yuji looked completely calm. There was really nothing to be mad about. If the shop opened late, he could have just eaten somewhere else. But going out of his way to hire someone to cuss him out? That obviously meant he absolutely loved the food here. It was the kind of petty anger you get when you can't get that one meal you've been obsessing over. Honestly, it was the highest compliment a small shop could ask for. Any normal customer would have bounced ages ago. Who would spend that much money just to leave a bad review? Sure enough, from the little boy's story, Yuji got a pretty good picture of what went down. So, what happened? Wang Zhen never actually left last night. He literally camped right outside the shop. He figured he'd sleep until dawn, enjoy a delicious breakfast, and hit the road. But morning came, and Yuji's shop stayed shut tight. Closed is closed, right? He was still pretty stuffed from last night anyway, so he wasn't exactly starving. If it's not open for breakfast, it'll definitely open for lunch, right? So Wang Zhen waited and waited, just waiting for a glorious meal before heading off. But nope, Yuji stubbornly stayed closed in the morning, and he didn't open at noon either, seeing that if he didn't leave soon, he wouldn't make it back today. Wang Zhen finally gave up. It just so happened that Little Chin had come to town to sell herbs. And passing by, he got drafted into this mess. Wang Zhen tossed him one piece of silver, traded it for the dry rations the boy had on him, and ordered him to wait here as his proxy. So he just kept waiting and waiting, all the way until now. Of course, besides all of this, Yuji also managed to pry a lot of information about this world from Little Chin. The era they were in was the Great Qian Dynasty. The Great Qian Dynasty had been plagued by endless war, and the people were suffering deeply. It was only about 20 years ago, when they could no longer afford the military costs, that the fighting finally stopped. But food was scarce, clothes were scarce, and the population had dropped to a terrifying low. Even though they had a few years to recover, and things bounced back a little, this place was hit by more than just human disasters. Natural disasters were everywhere. If it wasn't a brutal drought, it was torrential floods. The past few years saw total crop failures. It was straight up tragic. Nowadays, ordinary folks survived on just 2 bowls of wild vegetable mush a day. Rice? That was strictly for the wealthy families. Even an average landlord could only afford to fill their bellies with coarse grains. Big, fluffy white rice? That was a luxury saved exclusively for the new year. But hey, in a world with poor people, there are naturally rich folks, too. It wasn't like everyone was starving. Otherwise, fancy restaurants wouldn't even exist. Rich kids like Wang Zhen were obviously loaded. It's just that the town Yuji lived in was definitely not booming. The place he was in was called Kahuo Town. It used to be a mandatory stop on the way to the capital, blending both water and land routes. It was once a massive hub for merchants. But unfortunately, because of the war 20 years ago, the county office was relocated to the neighboring town. That town quietly built itself up over 2 decades. Its economy and living standards had fully matured. Plus, with the political pull of having the county office there, it sucked away all the population. That's why Kahuo Town right now, aside from a few locals and folks just passing through, basically had nobody around. Without people, the key factor is missing, so naturally, everything else just stops growing. That's exactly how Yuji's shop went out of business. This used to be a bustling commercial street. Now, it's all gone. If Yuji hadn't kept the shop open, this place would just be a dead street. Boss, I really didn't mean to. Oh, right. Young Master Wang also asked me to help you clean up the restaurant. So it won't be a mess next time he comes over. After saying that, Xiao Qin stood up, looking for a rag. But then, his stomach let out an untimely growl. Have you not eaten anything? Yuji asked, looking a bit surprised. He suddenly remembered what Xiao Qin had just told him, that Wang Zhen had traded away all his rations. He thought the kid would have saved a little for himself, but it looked like he was just too honest. He didn't save a single crumb. It's totally fine. I'm a fast worker. Once I'm done here, I can head back and eat. The silver young Master Wang gave me is enough to feed my family for months. Even giving him all my rations, I still made a huge profit. Xiao Qin explained hurriedly. Let me go grab you something to eat first. We might not have much else around here, but we definitely have enough food, Yuji said as he headed toward the kitchen. It's only a matter of $5 or $6 anyway. I can't just let the kid starve. No, Xiao Qin instinctively tried to refuse, but considering he had earned a whole piece of silver today, and that he really was pretty hungry, plus, he still had work to do. He just gulped down his saliva and swallowed his words. So what if I spend a little? I'll just treat it as earning a little less. 3.5 minutes later, an incredible aroma filled the entire restaurant. Wow, that smells amazing. Xiao Qin twitched his nose, sniffing the air exactly like a little puppy. Eat up. Yuji brought out a plate of kung pao chicken along with a huge bowl of white rice. Wah, this is way too expensive. I can't accept this, Xiao Qin protested, even though he was practically drooling all over the floor. But he still had some sense left. Fluffy white rice and a delicious meat dish? Was this really something a country boy like him could afford to eat? This one meal, it would probably cost him the entire piece of silver he had just earned today. Don't worry about it, just consider it payment for your hard work later, Yuji said casually. No, absolutely not. Young Master Wang already paid me for the work. How could I possibly take more from you? Oh, wait, how about I trade you these things for the meal? Xiao Qin waved his hands frantically. But as the mouth-watering scent hit his nose again, he really couldn't resist any longer. He couldn't bear to part with his money, but trading something else was totally fine. As it happened, he had actually come to the city this morning to sell some herbs he picked, but Wang Zhen had stopped him before he could reach the pharmacy. However, the herbs in his basket were just ones he had randomly gathered. He wasn't sure if the boss would even want them. What the heck is this stuff? Wild Solomon's seal? Naturally, Yuji couldn't recognize medicinal herbs. But it didn't matter. He had his almighty AIR app. He casually snapped a quick photo, and the AIR automatically identified the item in front of him. It was Wild Solomon's seal, and it even displayed the market price right next to it. 50 yuan per kilogram. Looking at this whole basket, there had to be at least 5 or 6 kilos in there. Doing the math, it could sell for 250 yuan. That was even more than what Wang Zhen offered yesterday. So, can we make the trade? Xiao Qin asked nervously. Usually, when he took a basket of herbs like this to the pharmacy to sell, it'll probably only sell for a few copper coins. I don't even know if it's enough to pay for this meal. Oh, it's more than enough. From now on, if you get your hands on any medicinal herbs, bring them to me first. I actually need herbs here too. Copper and silver don't really hold much value for me, but herbs definitely do, especially this kind of pure, wild-grown stuff. In the modern world where greenhouse herbs are everywhere, this is absolutely a rare treasure. Buying herbs in the ancient world and selling them back in the modern one. That actually sounds pretty damn profitable. Okay, thank you so much, boss. Xiao Xin was practically moved to tears. You're welcome, eat up. It won't taste good if it gets cold. Yuji waved his hand, saying dismissively, even though I don't know if ancient herbs are worth much money here. They definitely won't sell for a high price deep in the mountains. It's just like durians in the city. They can sell for dozens of bucks each, but if you go straight to a durian farm, people might not even want them for free. The cost of transportation actually makes up a huge part of an item's value, but things are totally different back in his world. Modern transportation is super convenient, and express delivery is highly developed. What they lack the most is authentic, wild-grown stuff. As long as he finds the right connections, the price of wild herbs could be pushed even higher. Just as Xiao Qin was wolfing down his meal, the crisp clip-clop of a riding bird echoed down the quiet street. Miss, I found it. There's a shop right here. The delicious smell is coming from inside. But, this place looks really dirty. Maybe we should just leave? A carriage stopped right in front of the shop's main entrance. A girl who looked like a maid stepped down from it, took one look at the place, and spoke with obvious disgust. Wait, please don't go. It's not dirty at all. It's my fault. It's all my fault for not cleaning up in time. Hearing that the maid wanted to leave, Yuji didn't really react. They probably wouldn't make much money off them anyway. But Xiao-Qin, who was still eating, panicked. He rushed out carrying his plate of food. The boss was such a great guy and the food was amazing. He couldn't just let customers run off because of his own mistake. That's right, he had already blamed himself for the shop being dirty. If he hadn't been so greedy for a bite to eat, and started working earlier, the shop would have been perfectly clean by now. And honestly, his sudden dash sent the mouth-watering smell of kung pao chicken straight to the front door. Even the maid standing outside couldn't help but start sniffing the air. "Miss, it smells incredible. But, it's still too dirty. We really should go." The maid was highly trained, after all. She always put her young lady first, and her lady was incredibly precious. How could she possibly eat unsanitary food from a place like this? Just look at how filthy this little waiter was, that said it all. The shop was definitely a mess inside. Honestly, she hadn't wanted to come here in the first place. But her young lady, who usually hated eating, had actually spoken up, asking to find the source of that delicious smell. She couldn't really stop her. She had assumed it was some fancy, newly opened restaurant. Who would have guessed it was just a rundown little shack? And a filthy one at that. For a moment, she really regretted bringing her here. It is clean. It's perfectly clean. Look, our boss put his heart into making this dish. It's super clean. In a panic, Xiao-Qin shoved the plate in his hands forward. The half-eaten portion of kung pao chicken just sat there, quietly resting on the plate. The glistening sauce coating the tender chicken makes your mouth water just looking at it. I really want to eat it, what should I do? The little maid, face to face with the kung pao chicken, is fighting a massive internal battle. Rationally speaking, she absolutely cannot let her young lady eat dishes from such an unsanitary little shop. But her basic instincts are driving her, making her want to taste exactly what the dish right in front of her is like. She just can't help it. It smells so good, it just smells so unbelievably good. Especially with this plate sitting right under her very nose. The aroma is just drilling straight into her nostrils. "Miss, maybe we should try it?" The little maid gulped hard. She was just about to say, "Maybe I should test it for you first," when the shopkeeper's voice drifted over from the other side. "Xiao-Qin, if the customer doesn't want to eat it, just come on back. Our food really isn't very sanitary anyway. Her ladyship has a delicate and precious body. She's far too fragile. If she eats it and gets sick, I definitely can't afford to compensate her." Heaven be my witness, when Yuji said these words, he was being absolutely 100% sincere. I mean, this is pre-made food. Who knows how it was actually made? What if there were some unhygienic steps in the process? He wouldn't even know. It's fine for the others. Like modern people who eat takeout every single day, pre-made meals are just part of their everyday routine. He doesn't have to worry about them at all. Wang Zhen is clearly a martial artist. Otherwise he couldn't have eaten that much food in one breath. So, no need to worry about him. As for Xiao-Qin, he grew up eating rough grains and wild weeds, so there's even less to worry about. Whatever doesn't kill him will only make his stomach stronger. But as for the person inside this carriage, just looking at the maid and the grand setup of this carriage, you know she's a carefully sheltered young lady from a wealthy family. A noble lady like her is used to eating purely natural, organic, and completely unpolluted food. If she eats his pre-made meals, packed with all sorts of industrial food tech, he's genuinely terrified it might make her seriously sick. So what he just said had absolutely zero sarcasm in it. It was purely a heartfelt warning, spoken with a clear conscience. Unfortunately, the speaker had no underlying intentions, but the listener read way too much into it. To an overthinking listener, it sounded like a completely different story. "Mr. Shopkeeper, I apologize, my maid spoke out of turn. We will take the dish. Please pack a portion for us to take away." An ethereal female voice echoed from inside the carriage. "Miss, I'm really not joking here. My food is genuinely not clean. Please, whatever you do, do not eat it. It will give you an awful stomachache. You might even end up getting seriously sick." Yuji tried his absolute best to persuade her with good intentions. He really just didn't want any trouble. But such a feeble explanation only made it sound even more like pure sarcasm. I mean, what kind of restaurant owner would actually say their own food is dirty and unhygienic? Wouldn't they just have to be completely out of their mind? "I understand." The ethereal female voice remained just as serene. "Oh, well, as long as you understand." Yuji thought the person inside the carriage had actually gotten his point. And he let out a heavy sigh of relief. However, it seems he relaxed a little too soon. "Shopkeeper, we will pay you 1 tael of silver, to buy just one of your dishes. Keep the change. Consider it my compensation for my maid's disrespectful remarks earlier." "Xiao-Chun, pay the man." The ethereal voice now carried a hint of icy distance. "Miss, isn't 1 tael of silver a bit too much?" The little maid named Xiao-Chun sounded quite reluctant. "Even if this dish tastes incredible, it's definitely not worth a whole tael." Pay him. It seemed that, when dealing with her own maid, that icy voice wasn't quite so polite anymore. Her tone was strict, making it incredibly clear that she just wanted to get this whole situation over and done with. Xiao Qin stared at his boss, absolutely beaming with awe and anticipation. In just a matter of moments, the boss had somehow managed to rake in a whole tale of silver. If he had to go haul heavy sacks down at the docks, it would take him at least a month or two to make that kind of cash. But the boss pulled it off with just a single meal. The man was an absolute god to him. No, wait, that's not what I meant. My food here really isn't up to standard. I seriously can't sell this to you. If you end up with food poisoning, who's gonna take the blame? Yuji wasn't letting the sudden flash of silver cloud his judgment. He was way more worried about getting into trouble. Besides, he genuinely didn't trust his own pre-packaged meals. He really couldn't guarantee the quality. It doesn't matter. If I get sick, it's on me. I won't hold you responsible, boss, the voice from inside the carriage replied coolly. Yuji wanted to push back a little more. 10 taels. The person in the carriage was clearly losing patience. With a sharp whoosh, a solid ingot of silver came flying right out of the carriage. It landed perfectly smack in the palm of Yuji's hand. He gave it a little toss to check the weight. Spot on. Exactly 10 taels. Well, I'm putting this on the record right now. If you get a bad stomach, you can't come back and make trouble for me. Only a complete idiot would turn down free cash. Naturally, Yuji wasn't about to pick a fight with money. Everyone else ate it just fine anyway, so there was no reason some spoiled rich girl couldn't stomach it. Dropping that thought, Yuji headed straight into the kitchen. After running through his usual, familiar routine, a mouth-watering pot of kung pao chicken was fresh out of the pan. Just to cater to those snobby, broke scholars earlier, Yuji had gone out of his way to buy some wooden takeout boxes. And now, they were coming in pretty handy. In no time at all. A box of kung pao chicken and a side of rice were packed up and ready to go. Miss, I'm begging you, please don't actually eat it. My food here is genuinely terrible for you. Happily squeezing the heavy silver in his hand, Yuji called out his well-meaning warning to the departing carriage. HMPH, miss, he's going way too far. He is so insanely petty and unforgiving. Xiao Chun, walking right alongside the carriage, heard the faint shout echoing from behind them. He thought Yuji was still actively mocking him, and he was practically stomping his feet in rage. That jerk kept going on and on about his food being dirty. Wasn't he just mocking exactly what he had said earlier? They had already paid him so much money, and that stupid boss still had the nerve to insult them. He has absolutely zero class. Let it go. We simply won't visit his shop ever again. The young lady's voice remained incredibly ethereal, completely devoid of any emotional shifts. Then, miss, what should we do with the food? How about, I test it for poison first? Xiao Chun really wanted to just toss the meal out, but he simply couldn't bring himself to do it. He couldn't help it, it smelled way too good. Plus, just looking at it, you could tell it was absolutely mouth-watering. The young lady's voice sounded so ethereal she hardly seemed human. Yes, seeing his lady nod in agreement, Xiao Chun couldn't hold back anymore and eagerly ripped open the takeout box. Pop. With a soft click, the box popped open. A wave of steaming heat rose up like a mini tornado, sweeping that savory aroma right up into his nose, right in the middle of the box. The kung pao chicken sat there perfectly, looking like a stunning piece of art. The incredibly tender chicken was diced into bite-sized pieces, each one glowing with a mouth-watering, golden brown hue. It practically screamed pure flavor. The rich, savory sauce draped over it like a gorgeous silk coat, clinging tightly to the chicken cubes. Every single piece was perfectly coated and soaked in that glorious sauce. It looked so vibrant and glossy, making it absolutely impossible to look away. Xiao Chun carefully picked up a piece of chicken with his chopsticks and popped it right into his mouth. In an instant, an explosion of savory perfection bloomed right across his tongue. The chicken was unbelievably juicy, melting in his mouth with the most tender, silky texture. It blends perfectly with the rich sauce, leaving an unforgettable taste. In the other lunchbox, every single grain of white rice is distinct and plump, crystal clear like pearls, with every grain giving off a faint, savory aroma of meat. It's absolutely mouth-watering. Xiao Chun gently picks up a bit of rice with her chopsticks, and puts it in her mouth. The rice is so soft and chewy. It has a hint of sweetness, and paired with the kung pao chicken, it's a match made in heaven. Originally, Xiao Chun just wanted to test the food for her lady. But she takes bite after bite. She simply can't stop. Soon, the carriage stops at the gates of a grand mansion. A shiny plaque bearing the name Shui hangs above the entrance. It's the most prestigious family in Kahuo town, the Shui family. And the person in the carriage is none other than the eldest daughter, Shui Xinyue. Miss, we're here. We're finally home. Oh no. Just as Xiao Chun takes her lady's hand to help her down, she suddenly gasps in shock. What's wrong? Why are you acting so startled? Shui Xinyue asks calmly. Oh no, I accidentally ate all the food. I'm so sorry, miss, how about I go back and buy another portion? Xiaoqin is anxiously stomping her feet, because she's the only one who tasted it. She knows exactly how incredibly delicious that dish was, but she was so caught up in eating, she completely forgot to save some for her lady. She feels absolutely terrible. There's no need. It's just a dish, isn't it? If I get to eat it, I'm lucky. If I don't, then so be it. It's no big deal. Besides, didn't you say you'd never go back there again? Shui Xingyue is a bit puzzled. Her maid isn't usually a glutton. What's gotten into her today? But, it was really, really good. Xiaoqin mutters weakly. How good could it possibly be? At the end of the day, it's just a dish. Let's go inside. At this moment, Shui Xingyue has absolutely no idea what she just missed out on. She genuinely thinks it was just a slightly tasty meal. Being born into a wealthy family, she's eaten every delicacy under the sun. Naturally, she doesn't care much. Buying it was just a spur-of-the-moment whim anyway. But that restaurant boss kept mocking them earlier. She isn't a saint made of clay, after all. So she's actually still a bit annoyed. She wasn't planning on eating that food to begin with. Now that the food is gone, she cares even less about it. But miss, that dish was seriously so amazing. Xiaoqin still tries to defend it. She ate the food, so she knows better than anyone else. The flavor was so incredibly savory, it has her craving for more. Enough, let's go inside. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, after seeing off Shui Xingyue, Xiaoqin couldn't wait to start cleaning up for Yuji. He grabs a bucket of water and a rag, scrubbing away with all his might. He wipes down every single spot at least 4 times, not even sparing the floor. He scrubs so hard you'd think he's trying to turn the floorboards into marble. And don't even get me started on the sign above the door. It's polished so brightly that just looking at it from afar gives off an incredibly vibrant energy. Of course, there's a downside to working this obsessively, and that's the fact that it took him until nightfall just to barely finish cleaning the first floor. The second floor hasn't been touched at all. Alright, that's enough. Stop scrubbing. Yuji checks the time. It's already 8 o'clock at night. He quickly grabs hold of Xiaoqin, who is still scrubbing furiously. I can't stop now, boss. I took young Master Wang's money, so I've gotta finish the job. Xiaoqin didn't stop working. For one thing, he couldn't just take the money and do nothing. And for another, the boss had been incredibly good to him. Not only did he get to eat fluffy white rice, but he also got to taste the absolute most amazing food in the world. Even the food of the gods couldn't compare to that. He was just a wild kid from a poor family. Aside from his brute strength, he really had no other way to repay him. All he could do was work his absolute hardest. He had already made up his mind. Not just for today, but he'd come back every now and then to help the boss clean up. Otherwise, he'd feel bad for all the boss's kindness. I never said you couldn't work. But, we're closing up shop for today. You can just come back tomorrow. Of course, we don't open in the mornings. You can go up the mountain and pick some herbs first, and then come back to work in the afternoon. Having made a huge profit today, Yuji just wanted to slack off. 10 taels of silver. Since the ancient exchange rate between silver and gold is 10 to 1. That meant, after calculating it, he had made 1 tael of gold today. And gold is way more expensive than silver. He had just searched it up online. Right now, gold is over 900,000 per kilogram. So 1 tael of gold is worth over 45,000 bucks. Making over 40,000 bucks in a single day, it was ridiculously profitable. The way these rich folks apologize is just so incredibly straightforward, you really can't hate them for it. He finally figured it out. He couldn't just sell this money as antiques. Even if the copper and silver weren't worth much, it didn't matter. As long as the gold was valuable, he was good. From now on, he'd save up all his earnings, and eventually convert it all into gold to sell back home. In his world, the silver to gold ratio was 90 to 1. Even if the gold here wasn't perfectly pure, as long as it was real gold, he definitely wouldn't lose out. But of course, after making so much cash today, he absolutely had to kick back and relax. He might as well just close up early. It wasn't like he'd get any customers tonight anyway. Boss, you like herbs? Hearing Yuji mention it for the second time, Xiaoqin couldn't help but ask. Of course, didn't I tell you? If you bring herbs to me, not only will I pay you for them, I'll even cover your meals. Hoarding gold took too much time, he needed to run some other little side businesses, just to keep the cash flow moving. Hey, are you serious? Xiaoqin was getting pretty excited. He had eaten the boss's food before. Saying it was food for the gods wasn't an exaggeration at all. And getting fluffy white rice as a standard meal? Could he really eat like that every single day? As for the herbs, he wasn't worried about that at all. They might not have much in their mountains, but they sure had plenty of herbs. It was just that they never fetched a good price before. That's why he only came to town every once in a while. But now, if meals were included, he had to seriously consider getting the whole village to help harvest them. Xiaoqin might be honest, but he wasn't stupid. Otherwise, he wouldn't have brought herbs to the city to sell in the first place. For kids his age, there were plenty of them just idling around the village. They couldn't do much else. But they could definitely pick some herbs. In the past, herbs were hard to sell, so he'd just gather them himself and sell them in the city. But if the boss really liked them, he really didn't mind being a middleman, even if he made a little less profit. As long as he got fed, he was happy. As for himself, he still planned to stick around the shop to help the boss out and maybe earn some extra errand money on the side. That's piping hot white rice with amazing food. Where else could you earn enough in a single day to afford a meal like this? Of course it's true. As long as you bring them, I'll buy them all. I've got a childhood buddy whose family runs a traditional Chinese medicine clinic. Over the years, I've heard him complain time and time again, saying that herbs are getting faker and faker. The farmed ones just don't pack enough punch. It makes a lot of ancient recipes completely useless. I mean, when you're filling a prescription, if the ingredients are off, how can you cure the patient? My buddy's clinic doesn't even dare let patients go out and buy their own herbs anymore. They mix it all themselves before handing it over. Otherwise, there's just no way to control the quality. But nowadays, top-notch herbs are getting so incredibly hard to find. They have to go out and source them personally. And even then, it's not a sure thing. They're constantly running completely out of stock. When they're out of options, they have to use the farmed ones and just bump up the dosage. But the results are never as good as the wild ones. So, having a steady supply channel like this, Eugene naturally wasn't worried about his stock not selling out. Alright, boss, I'll head back for now. I'll see you tomorrow. Xiao Qin was so thrilled that she was practically skipping along, looking almost like she was drunk. Hey, it's getting super late. Why don't you stay for dinner before you go? Yuji asked, looking a bit worried. No, I couldn't. I can't let you spend any more money on me, boss. I'm taking off. See you tomorrow. Xiao Qin turned around in excitement and sprinted off, vanishing in the blink of an eye. She was definitely going to be way too excited to sleep tonight. But compared to her joyful insomnia, someone else was losing sleep out of pure frustration, inside an elegant private room at the Taifeng restaurant in the capital. A group of tough, burly men were gathered around the table, passing drinks back and forth, chatting and laughing it up. Come on. Drink up, Mr. Wang. It's been 3 or 4 months since you left the capital. The boys put together this welcome back feast just for you. We're gonna make sure you eat and drink like an absolute king tonight. Yeah, exactly. You must be completely exhausted from the long trip, Mr. Wang. You definitely haven't had a decent meal out there on the road. Now that you're back, you've gotta sit back and really enjoy yourself. That's right. Look at this. The roast duck, the roast chicken, all your absolute favorites from the old days. Take a bite. Tell us if it still hits the spot. Sitting right at the head of the table, Wang Zhen lounged in his seat, happily swapping toasts and jokes with the guys. The dishes laid out before him used to be his absolute favorites. He was definitely planning on digging in and enjoying himself. After knocking back a few drinks, Wang Zhen reached out with his chopsticks toward the roast chicken in front of him. With just a gentle tug, a whole drumstick slid right off the bone. It still had that perfect, tender feel. Looking satisfied, Wang Zhen took a bite out of the drumstick. But the moment his teeth sank in, he instantly realized something was off. Why didn't it taste as amazing as it used to? Mr. Wang, what's wrong? Why'd you stop eating? The guys next to him noticed he was just holding the drumstick in the air, not putting it down. They looked confused. Is the flavor a little off? Did Taifeng restaurant get a new chef? Wang Zhen asked, looking totally baffled. This roast chicken used to be his absolute favorite. But now, after just one bite, he had completely lost his appetite. It just tasted so incredibly bland. And he just didn't feel that same craving anymore. Huh? Really? Hasn't it always tasted exactly like this? It's actually pretty good. Hearing this, the person beside him also picked up a piece with his chopsticks and popped it into his mouth. After tasting it, he found it to be the exact same flavor as always. No way, do you really think it doesn't taste as good as it used to? Wang Zhen took another bite. He really didn't feel the same love for it anymore. This stuff is an absolute delicacy. Young Master Wang, have your tastes changed? Maybe you're just not used to it because you haven't had it in months. It's alright. Just try some of the other dishes. We've got this huge table full of all your absolute favorites. The people around him didn't pay it too much mind. For guards who travel for months on end, heading to far-off places, it's pretty normal for their tastes to change. Yeah, maybe. Wang Zhen nodded. It's a pity that after taking a few more bites of the other dishes, he finally just gave up and set his chopsticks down. How did I never notice this before? The food at Taifeng restaurant is so gamey and tough. And the worst part is, it's completely bland. It's practically inedible. If that plate of Kung Pao chicken was a dance of flavors on the tip of my tongue, then this food right in front of me tastes like it was just dunked in hot water and tossed on the table. So utterly tasteless, it's no better than the dry travel rations we eat just to stay alive. To think that he, the dignified young master of the Wei Yuan escort agency, used to actually stomach this slop. What's wrong, young Master Wang? Have you lost your appetite? Are you coming down with something? Maybe we should get a doctor to take a look. His escort guards asked with genuine concern. After all, Wang Zhen was the future hope of their Wei Yuan escort agency. Absolutely nothing could happen to him, considering their Wei Yuan escort agency had operations crossing 27 provinces from the north to the south of the Great Qian dynasty, and even the imperial court sometimes relied on them to transport goods. For a massive enterprise like theirs, having a capable heir who could take charge was absolutely crucial. Although Wang Zhen wasn't much of a scholar, his martial arts skills were top tier among the younger generation. Give him a few more years of experience, and he'd be fully ready to carry the agency's business on his shoulders. At a time like this, his health was more important than absolutely anything else. No, I'm fine. It's just that I had this incredibly delicious dish on the way back to the capital. Compared to that dish, all of this is literally pig slop. I just can't stomach it. I mean, look at this chicken. It's so dry. The chicken I had was tender, smooth, and incredibly juicy. Tossed in this rich glaze, shining like crystal, it was absolute perfection. And the flavor of this? Don't even get me started. Utterly bland, nothing like that other dish. Just one bite, and dozens of flavors just exploded in my mouth, each one distinct and perfectly layered. Man, just thinking about it makes my mouth water. Recalling the meal he had last night, drool unconsciously slipped from the corner of Wang Zhen's mouth. Was it really that good? You're making it sound like pure magic. If it's that incredible, wouldn't it be food fit for the gods? His subordinates obviously didn't buy a word of it. They were seasoned escort guards, who had traveled the length and breadth of the country for years. You could say that they had dined at famous restaurants in just about every region. But honestly, after circling the entire nation, the top 8 restaurants of the capital still reigned supreme. It wasn't that the food elsewhere was bad, but at best, it was only on par with the capital's elite 8. How could anyone cook a dish that made the food at these legendary restaurants seem utterly worthless? Even the head chef of the royal palace wouldn't dare make such an outrageous boast. As the old saying goes, you master the arts of pen and sword to serve the imperial family. You could say the royal chefs in the imperial kitchens represent the absolute pinnacle of culinary arts in this dynasty. Only the ones who were rejected or retired from the palace would ever get snatched up by anyone else. Take the 8 great restaurants of the capital. Every single one of them has a few old masters from the imperial kitchens holding the fort. Naturally, no ordinary tavern could ever hold a candle to them. Of course, it's not like that everywhere. Different regions have their own local specialties. Sure, they might have a signature dish or two, but a meal so good it makes our young master lose his appetite for anything else. Now that's just absurd. At least, his men weren't buying it. Oh man, it really was food fit for the gods. I've never tasted anything like it in my entire life. The flavors were just so complex. Wang Zhen didn't even know how to describe it anymore. It was a kind of deliciousness beyond words. So, where exactly did you have this, young Master Wang? One of his sharper guards chimed in. After all, there are only so many famous restaurants around. We've pretty much been to all of them. Just tell us the name, and we'll be the judge of that. It's actually not that far. It's over in Kahuo town, less than a day's ride from the capital. There's this place. Well, how should I put it? It looks like it's been around for ages, anyway. And that dish they serve, the Kung Pao chicken, was absolutely divine. I was passing through there last night, and I devoured 11 plates of it in one sitting. The only problem is that damn owner didn't even open his doors by noon today. He made me come all the way back here with an empty stomach. Just thinking about it made Wang Zhen seethe with frustration. No way. I've passed through Kahuo town a few times myself. There isn't a single tavern out there. One of the guards voiced his doubts. Yeah, he's right. I travel through Kahuo town all the time. The last time they had a tavern open was, 7 or 8 years ago. That whole place is a complete ghost town nowadays. I even heard it was haunted. Another guard who regularly traveled that route chimed in to agree. Opens at night, and closes during the day? Young Master Wang, you don't think you ran into a ghost, do you? Maybe we should head to the temple and pray, to ward off any evil spirits? A more timid guard suggested, shrinking his neck in fear. Screw that, I'm a red-blooded warrior. I'm bursting with righteous energy. If a ghost saw me, it would turn tail and run. How the hell could I run into a ghost? And besides, even if I did, it'd be a beautiful female ghost trying to suck out my life force. What kind of ghost just sells stir-fry? He acted tough, but deep down, Wang Zhen was actually starting to panic. Did I really stumble into some kind of ghost tavern? Maybe I should go pray at the temple tomorrow. You definitely ran into a ghost. I refuse to believe that any normal food could have you obsessing over it like this. I mean, sure, food can be delicious. But so delicious that you can't stomach anything else? There's definitely something messed up about that. It's a ghost. It has to be a ghost. One of the guards said with absolute certainty. Exactly. Anything that completely kills your appetite and makes you lose your mind is definitely pure evil. Young Master Wang, you absolutely crossed paths with a ghost. Another guard agreed firmly. That can't be right. Wang Zhen argued back. That food was truly out of this world. Unlike anything I've ever seen. And the owner didn't seem like a bad guy at all. Plus, even his plain white rice was fragrant. It tasted way better than the rice you get anywhere else. Wang Zhen muttered, still a bit dazed as he defended the cook. Good rice? Man, I don't care how good the rice is. How amazing could it really be? You definitely got blinded by a ghost's illusion. Young Master Wang, my great aunt knows exactly how to exorcise ghosts. I'll have her come over and take a look tomorrow. One of the guards offered enthusiastically. No, I seriously didn't see a ghost. I swear, that restaurant is absolutely real. And the food is real, too. It's seriously delicious. Wang Zhen stood firm in his beliefs. Young Master Wang, you really can't blame us for not believing you. What you're saying is just way too far-fetched. Only open at night? 100 times more delicious than normal? And closed during the day? How could a place like that exist in the real world? I think we'd better hurry up and find a Taoist priest to cleanse you of whatever evil spirit you caught. The others chimed in, entirely unconvinced. Man, you guys are really testing my temper. Why won't you just believe me? It truly was food fit for the gods. Forget it, just forget it. You guys have never tasted it, so there's no point explaining it to you. Wang Zhen was fuming. Why wouldn't these guys just believe him? Young Master Wang, you can't blame the boys. We really haven't tried it. How do you expect us to believe it? Tell you what, that place isn't too far from the capital anyway. Since you're craving it, young Master Wang, we can just ride fast horses over there. It'll only take a few hours. Let's just do it tomorrow. You can take a few of us who are off duty to go expand our horizons. No need to argue about what's real or fake. We'll know for sure once we try it. A slightly older guard stepped in to smooth things over. Uncle Lu truly lived up to his reputation as a veteran guard with decades of experience. He always knew exactly how to handle things. Alright, let's do it your way. But you can't stay overnight there, and I'm still not entirely sure what time they actually open. Here's the plan. Tomorrow we'll head out a bit later, and make sure we come back early. Wang Zhen's spirits instantly lifted. Right now, all he wanted was another bite of that authentic Kung Pao chicken. Distance meant absolutely nothing to him anymore. After all, life in this world. Isn't it all just for a good bite to eat? Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, after seeing little Chin off, Yuji couldn't wait to flop onto his bed. He grabbed his phone and shot a text to his childhood buddy. Delivery boy Fish. Wanna hang out? Pharmacist Little Lee. No way, definitely not hanging out. Just tell me what's up. And don't even think about scamming me into coming over to eat your pre-packaged meals. Delivery boy Fish. Fine, don't eat it then. If you won't eat it, plenty of other people will. I just wanted to ask you, do you guys buy wild medicinal herbs? Pharmacist Little Lee. Wild ones? Yeah, we buy them. Why wouldn't we? Wait a sec. What kind of herbs? Wild ones? Delivery boy Fish. It's kind of hard to explain over text. I'm not exactly a medical expert either. Just come over tomorrow and see for yourself. Oh, and make sure you come in the afternoon. Pharmacist Little Lee. Relax, don't worry. I won't be able to wake up in the morning anyway. Delivery boy Fish. Sounds good. Pharmacist Little Lee. Deal. It was a sleepless night. It wasn't until the next afternoon that Yuji finally dragged himself out of bed. He yawned as he opened the door, only to find little Chin already waiting outside. He was still carrying that massive bamboo basket on his back, and he had placed 2 more on the ground. Inside, apart from the yellow essence herb he saw yesterday, there were a bunch of other medicinal herbs he didn't even recognize. Either way, it was several huge baskets packed to the brim. Boss, this is everything I managed to scrape together from the village early this morning. Take a look, what do you think? He had gotten back so incredibly late last night, so little Chin obviously hadn't had the time to give his friends in the village a heads up. But it didn't really matter. Country folks always kept a stash of wild herbs at home anyway. Early this morning, while I was going door to door letting folks know about the herb gathering, I managed to collect quite a haul. 3 whole baskets full. Guess these will fetch a pretty penny. Not bad at all. I'll give you 1 mace of silver for this. Yuji really didn't have much concept of money. But he only had 15 copper coins, 1 mace of silver, and 10 taels of silver on him. Giving 15 coppers definitely wasn't enough. 10 taels of silver was way too much. So, that just left the 1 mace of silver. Besides, 1 mace was only worth about 50 or 60 bucks anyway. Buying this many wild herbs for that price was an absolute steal. There was a lot in there, and dried herbs are worth even more than the fresh ones we had yesterday. After all, once the moisture is dried out, the quality is totally different. 1 mace? Wait, isn't that way too much? Xiao Qin stammered. 1 mace was equal to 100 copper coins. If he had taken these to the pharmacy before, he would have been lucky to get 50 or 60 coppers for them. And the pharmacy owner would still nitpick every little thing. It's not too much, just take the 1 mace of silver. With that, he casually tossed the mace of silver he had collected a few days ago over to Xiao Qin. Ding ding, his phone notification chimed. It was little Li from the pharmacy at the door. Looks like he was already here. Yuji couldn't even be bothered to reply to the text. He picked up the herb basket and headed straight for the kitchen. Xiao Qin offered to help, but was immediately turned down. No need, the kitchen is a restricted area, no outsiders allowed. While they were cleaning yesterday, Yuji had already let him see the original ancient kitchen, but there was absolutely no way he could let him into the modern one. So he just banned him from the kitchen altogether to save himself the hassle. Alright then, boss, I'll get back to work. Xiao Qin was pretty obedient. Restaurants had their own rules, after all. Back in the old days, people were super strict about guarding their trade secrets. Whether it was chefs cooking, carpenters doing woodwork, or masters teaching medicine, they always kept their guard up against their apprentices. There were so many things you weren't even allowed to look at. Especially cooking, sometimes you could figure it out just by watching. So Yuji keeping people out of the kitchen was completely reasonable and expected. It definitely wouldn't raise any eyebrows. Go on, off you go. Yuji waved him off, then carried the herb basket through the kitchen and headed into his modern takeout shop. Rattle rattle, as the rolling shutter door went up. It revealed a slender figure standing outside. The guy at the door was quite tall, with a pair of thick black-framed glasses resting on his nose. He had a handsome face, giving off a total old-school scholar vibe. This was none other than Yuji's childhood friend, little Li Tongren, whose family ran a traditional Chinese medicine clinic. Rumor had it that his ancestors were somehow related to Li Shizhen, the legendary author of the Compendium of Materia Medica. So, you could say he came from a pretty prestigious lineage. A true ancestral family of traditional medicine. As for whether that was actually true or not, nobody really bothered to check. Anyway, in this day and age, if you didn't have a flashy title, absolutely no one would dare go to a traditional doctor for treatment. We went to sleep at the exact same time last night. How did you manage to get up so late? Hurry up and let me see what kind of good stuff you've got. Before Yuji could even push the glass door fully open, Li Tongren squeezed right through the gap and dove headfirst straight into the herb basket. Whoa, 5-year-old sealwort, and 10-year-old wild ones too. This is definitely some high-quality wild stuff. Oh, Tianquizi, this is fantastic. This stuff sells for over $100 a kilo out there. And look at this, snow monk's hood. Good stuff. This is seriously amazing stuff. Iron-skinned dendrobium, 99% wild. What a rare find. On the market, this goes for 30 to 50,000 a kilo. You don't see good stuff like this often. Where did you even get all this? Li Tongren's eyes practically glowed the more he looked. Even though there's not much of each herb if you weigh them out, their real value is in how insanely rare they are. Nowadays, if you want wild ones, you'd have to trek deep into untouched mountains and old forests. Otherwise, everything's so mechanized. You really can't get your hands on wild medicinal herbs today. They're all farm-grown now. As the old saying goes, you can't harvest for 3 years. Growing these herbs completely drains the soil's fertility. The medicinal potency from farmed soil just doesn't cut it. That's exactly why so many ancient remedies seem like total scams. Honestly, it's not the recipes that are the problem. It's just that people are buying fake herbs. The ingredients are total bunk. So naturally, they don't work. Oh, my relatives from the countryside sent them over. They asked me to find a connection to sell them off. So, are you taking them or not? Yuji was actually pretty surprised himself. He thought it'd be great if little Chin just scraped together some ordinary herbs. Who knew the kid would pull out herbs worth tens of thousands? This guy's really something else. I'll take them. Of course I'll take them, why wouldn't I? Not only is my family desperately short on these exact herbs, but to be completely honest, no one else around here would even dare to buy this stuff. If you get any more wild ones in the future, I don't care what kind of herb it is, just hold on to them and don't let a soul know. Some of these can't be sold on the open market, but my family has some serious connections up top. We can smooth it over, so don't sweat it. As for this pile you've got here, I'll head back and weigh them first, then I'll wire the money to your account later. Rest assured, just this wild dendrobium alone is worth tens of thousands. Your stash here will easily fetch 70 or 80,000. I'm off. Slinging the medicine basket over his back, Li Tongren bolted away in a flash, leaving a helpless Yuji shouting after him, "Hey, leave the basket." Too bad he had already run too far to hear him. Sigh, whatever. It's just a couple of bamboo baskets anyway. If he takes them, he takes them. Shaking his head, Yuji shut the rolling door again and stepped straight from his kitchen right back into the ancient world. Are you kidding me? He made over 100,000 in a single day. Which side had more potential? It was completely obvious. Over at the ancient tavern, Little Chin was still scrubbing the floor like his life depended on it. But the longer Yuji watched, the guiltier he felt. Those herbs he just sold were easily worth at least 10 taels of silver. But he only paid the poor kid one single mace. Making money like this felt a bit dirty, even though Little Chin could never get that kind of price if he sold them himself. Yuji's conscience was still eating at him. Hey, Yuji stammered, not really sure how to say it. Boss, do you need something? Little Chin looked up, clearly confused. No, it's nothing. It's just that, well, I bought your medicine basket too. Here's 15 copper coins for it. Yuji didn't have much cash left on him either. His loose change was just those few copper coins. So he just handed them all over. No. I absolutely cannot take this. It's just a few bamboo baskets. They aren't worth anything at all. I have plenty of them. If you want them, just take them. They really aren't worth a thing. Boss, you've already been far too kind to me. You paid a premium for my herbs, and you even fed me a huge bowl of white rice. A person shouldn't be greedy. I'm already more than satisfied. Xiao Qin lowered his head, his eyes welling up with tears. Before, he couldn't even earn a single silver coin in a whole month. That is, until he met Yuji. But in just 2 short days, he had made 2 silver coins. He would never, ever forget this kindness. Hey, you've been here since early morning. You haven't eaten yet, have you? Seeing that Xiao Qin wouldn't take the money, Yuji didn't force him. After all, being able to sell it for such a high price really didn't have much to do with Xiao Qin anyway. It was all thanks to his own connections and his time-traveling cheat. Forcing money into Xiao Qin's hands might not actually be a good thing. He was well aware of the saying, a drop of help makes a friend, but a bucket makes an enemy. Since he couldn't just hand him cash, he figured he could look out for him in other ways. No, I'm not hungry. Grumble. No, really, I'm not hungry. Xiao Qin had gone up the mountain first thing in the morning to gather herbs, and then rushed all the way over here at noon. He hadn't had a single second to eat. How could he possibly not be hungry? But if Yuji didn't bring it up, he was way too shy to ask for a meal. After all, in his mind, the food here was crazy expensive. Just yesterday, some rich young lady dropped 10 silver taels on a single meal. Thinking back to what he ate yesterday, that was 10 silver taels right there. If he hadn't eaten it, could he have kept the 10 taels instead? But that was just wishful thinking. Yesterday was obviously a special case. He was smart enough to realize that. But man, that food was just so incredibly delicious. If you're hungry, just say so. My place might not have much else. But we've got plenty of food. Hang on, let me grab you something to eat. I'll even add 2 extra dishes for you today, Yuji said as he made his way to the kitchen. Opening the fridge, he didn't grab anything right away. Since he was giving him extra dishes, he definitely needed to pick out something good. He had the most kung pao chicken in stock, of course. Coming in second place for sales was the spicy garlic shredded pork. But that dish had quite a kick to it. Yuji had looked into it before. In this ancient dynasty, chili peppers didn't even exist yet. If the locals ate them straight up, 9 times out of 10 they couldn't handle it. They might even get an upset stomach. As for asking to hold the spice? Well, sorry about that. These were pre-made meals. The flavors were already locked in. Whether you wanted less salt, no spice, no garlic, no cilantro, or no green onions. Too bad. There's the door, don't let it hit you on the way out. His food tasted exactly like this. Take it or leave it. So, better hold off on the spicy pork for now. The kid was still growing, after all. Yuji searched and searched, finally picking out 2 perfect dishes. Sweet and sour pork and twice-cooked pork. Both were absolute powerhouse signature dishes in the modern takeout world. They were the ones he had the most stock of. Ripping open the packaging, he grabbed 3 plates. It was the same familiar routine as always. Snip open the bags, plate it up, and heat for 3.5 minutes. Ding, ding, ding. 3 chimes from the microwave went off simultaneously, signaling that 3 delicious pre-made meals were hot and ready to go. Holding the tray, Yuji walked steadily back out to the front. Out in the lobby, Xiao Qin was still doing his chores, but his hands had completely slowed down without him even realizing it. He looked exactly like an office worker who had just ordered takeout right before the lunch break. His mind was completely fixed on the food. How could he possibly focus on working? Luckily, Yuji's food was as lightning fast as always. Just 3.5 minutes later, a few rich, mouth-watering aromas wafted straight out of the kitchen. One was the familiar scent of kung pao chicken, but Little Chin had no clue what the other 2 could be. He could only tell that one had a tangy kick, but without a doubt, they were bound to be absolutely delicious. Pretty soon, Little Chin finally got a good look at all 3 dishes. The Kung Pao chicken goes without saying, but that sweet and sour pork was glowing with a bright, glossy red, looking like a total masterpiece. Every single piece was perfectly coated in a crystal clear, sweet and sour glaze. Catching the natural light, the whole plate just shined with an incredibly mouthwatering glow. He didn't even have to lean in, that sweet and tangy aroma just rushed right into his nose. It was enough to make anyone's mouth water instantly, practically drooling on the spot. And then there was the twice-cooked pork, made from perfectly marbled cuts of pork belly. Sliced super thin and tossed into a roaring hot iron wok. The rich fat was completely rendered out, leaving the slices perfectly curled up. The edges of the lean meat were slightly charred and golden, practically screaming with flavor. Every single piece was dripping with its own rich, savory juices. The glistening fat coated the meat just right, sparkling with a truly irresistible shine. Just one look was enough to make you starving, especially in times like these, where folks could barely scrape together a full meal. Cooking oil was a massive luxury. A rich, greasy dish like twice-cooked pork? People would be lucky to even catch a glimpse of it during the new year. And I mean literally, just a glimpse. Stare any longer and you'd get scolded. As for actually eating it? Man, don't even dream about it. Seeing a feast like this sitting right under his nose, how could a country boy resist a temptation like that? Testing the common folk with something like this? What ordinary person could ever pass a test like this? Boss, this. Just that one plate of Kung Pao chicken yesterday had his mind completely blown. But today, the boss went ahead and served up 3 whole dishes. He was so touched, he could have kneeled down and bowed to the heavens 300 times. The heavens must finally be smiling down on him, for a guy who'd been dirt poor his entire life, to actually cross paths with a saint like the boss. Alright, eat up, eat up. Hurry and eat, it won't taste good if it gets cold. If it gets cold, it'll just taste like a frozen meal kit again. That texture gets real weird. Because of that, Yuji always rushed his customers to eat while it was hot. Otherwise, you could totally taste that freezer aisle funk. Besides, it was just 3 cheap frozen meal kits worth $15 in total. There was really no need to get all worked up over it. So good. Oh man, this is way too delicious. Faced with such a feast, little Chin completely lost it and started grabbing food with his chopsticks, stuffing his face with absolute joy. This is so good. And this one's amazing too. That sweet and tangy pork was easily the most addictive thing in the world for a growing kid like him. Fancy seasonings like sugar and vinegar? He had never tasted anything like that in his entire life. The very first bite completely blew his mind. Amazing, it's just too incredibly good. And don't even get him started on that twice-cooked pork, dripping with rich fat, paired with a mouthful of steaming white rice. Man, he was eating like an absolute king. Clop, clop, clop. Just as little Chin was lost in his glorious feast, the heavy sound of approaching hooves rang out near the door. And by the sound of it, it was definitely more than one horse galloping closer and closer. Whoosh. Pretty soon, the riders finally showed their faces. Yuji squinted out the door. Oh, isn't that Wang Zhen who just left yesterday? What's he doing back so soon? Is this the place? How does it look? See, I told you it wasn't a ghost shop, Wang Zhen said, spotting the shop wide open in broad daylight. He finally breathed a huge sigh of relief inside. Thank goodness, thank goodness. It wasn't an illusion. This place actually exists. The men on horseback following right behind him were stunned, too. They had originally thought their young master was completely losing his mind. But now, it seemed that wasn't the case. Did this place really have the heavenly food their young master wouldn't shut up about? That can't be right, can it? Still highly skeptical, the men hopped off their horses. They looked around. No matter how you looked at it, this was just a run-down, dingy little shack. It definitely didn't look like a place that served good food. Wait, what smells so good? It smells amazing, but the scent seems a little different from last time. Wang Zhen was leading the pack, so naturally, he was the first to catch a whiff of the food. Ignoring his men's shocked expressions, he dashed straight into the dining hall. He ran right up to Xiao Qin and immediately spotted the 3 half-eaten dishes on the table. What is this? Wang Zhen pointed a trembling finger at the 3 plates of food. He was practically shaking. He definitely hadn't seen this much good food the last time he was here. He had only eaten the Kung Pao chicken. Just thinking about how he had missed out on 2 incredible dishes made him shake with absolute rage. He wanted to give the boss a serious piece of his mind. Oh, those 2? One is sweet and sour pork, and the other is twice-cooked pork. Yuji glanced over, casually rattling off the names of the dishes. Even though Wang Zhen was a pretty generous guy, he paid in cash, and to Yuji, that wasn't nearly as valuable as the direct benefits Xiao Qin brought in. He was just an ordinary diner, really. What I mean is, since you have such amazing dishes here, why didn't you serve them to me last time? Are you looking down on me? Did you think I couldn't afford it? Oh, I get it now. It must have been too late in the day and the kitchen ran out of ingredients. Even while throwing a fit, Wang Zhen was desperately trying to give Yu Ji a way out. No, I definitely mentioned them to you last time. You were the one who said no. Too bad Yu Ji wasn't playing along. He really had brought it up back then. And he absolutely refused to take the blame for this. You mentioned them? Did you really? Wang Zhen suddenly felt incredibly awkward. Now that he thought about it, that did sound familiar. At the time, he figured that a rundown countryside joint like this would be lucky to have even one good signature dish. He completely dismissed the rest of the menu. Who would have thought the other dishes would be just as mind-blowing? Right now, he wanted nothing more than to travel back in time and slap himself silly. If the boss recommends something, just order it. It wasn't like he was short on cash. Who was he throwing an attitude for anyway? In the end, he was the only one who missed out. Yep, you were sitting right in that seat and then I told you about them. Yu Ji nodded earnestly, fully prepared to reenact the entire scene. Stop, say no more, Wang Zhen interrupted. What else do you have? Just spit it all out at once, boss. I'll take everything. Wang Zhen frantically cut him off. That's all there is, Yu Ji replied. I only prepared these 3 dishes today. You had to roll out the good stuff slowly. You couldn't just drop everything at once. Otherwise it would lose its appeal. Besides, he still needed to clear out some inventory. He had Wang Zhen figured out by now. This guy was the absolute perfect tool for clearing out stock. So, he had to introduce the dishes one by one. If Wang Zhen stuffed his face all at once, found a favorite and refused to eat the other stuff, that would be a total disaster. Thinking about those tens of thousands of frozen pre-made meal packs in the fridge. I'd better just take it slow. I'll clear out as much as I can. Then let's just go with these 3 dishes. Give me 10 portions of each, Wang Zhen said, waving his hand grandly. Sure enough, the great inventory clearance began right on cue. Hold on a second. Yu Ji didn't immediately turn toward the kitchen. What is it now? Wang Zhen asked, looking a bit impatient. He was absolutely dying to eat. Well, the thing is, the prices have gone up, Yu Ji said, looking a little embarrassed. About time they went up. How much? Wang Zhen wasn't surprised in the slightest. With food this incredibly delicious, he would have raised the prices too if he were the boss. He just wondered if the increase was going to be completely ridiculous. If it was too crazy, he'd still grit his teeth and pay for it. At worst, he'd just eat a few less meals here. 50 for each dish. Yu Ji thought about it for a second. He had multiplied the price by 5 times. Yeah, at this price, he could make a decent little profit. And it wasn't so high that average folks couldn't afford it either. After all, he couldn't rely solely on a few rich guys to clear out his entire inventory. 50 taels for one dish? Boss, you are way too greedy. Then, just give us 2 plates of each to start. Wang Zhen patted his money pouch, feeling a sharp pinch in his wallet. 300 taels of silver. Sometimes that was all he'd make from an entire escort mission. Wait, young Master Wang, have you lost your mind? That's 50 taels for a single dish. Even if it was cooked by the head chef of the Imperial Kitchen, a single dish wouldn't be worth 50 taels. This place is an absolute scam. Come on, let's get out of here. The guys standing behind him had been watching with interest earlier, but the moment they heard it was 50 taels a dish, they immediately lost it. Were they eating food or eating solid silver? It wasn't that their massive escort agency couldn't afford a meal at this price. The real question was whether it was actually worth it. Sure, the food smelled amazing. But there were plenty of amazing smelling dishes out there. How many of them could possibly be worth 50 taels of silver? Even those famous signature dishes at Taifeng restaurant only cost that much because their raw ingredients were incredibly rare. That was the only reason they could justify bumping up the prices. But look at these 3 dishes in front of them. What kind of ingredients were in here? Pork, chicken, and some random vegetables they didn't even recognize. No matter how you looked at it, this had absolutely nothing to do with expensive ingredients. For them to have the guts to sell this for 50 taels, they'd be showing incredible restraint if they didn't smash this shady joint to pieces. No, hold on. The food here is actually phenomenal. Just try it. You guys will understand the second you take a bite. This meal is totally on me, my treat. Wang Zhen had actually tasted the cooking before, so he naturally knew just how mind-blowing it was. He had tried every single signature dish at Taifeng restaurant and honestly, the only thing special about them was the expensive ingredients. Compared to the food right here, the difference was literally like night and day. If he had to drop 50 taels either way, he would much rather spend it right here. The only depressing part was the new price tag. He wouldn't be able to stuff his face like an absolute madman like he did the day before yesterday. Why on earth didn't he think to gorge himself when it was dirt cheap? Damn it, right now, Wang Zhen was drowning in so much regret that he actually wanted to slap himself across the face. Once, a beautiful plate of kung pao chicken for a mere 10 coppers was placed right in front of him. But he did not cherish it. Now that the price had skyrocketed, it was way too late for regrets. There was no greater agony in this world. If the heavens could just grant him one more chance to do it all over again. He would march right up to the boss and say 3 words, add more dishes. And if he had to put a number on those portions, he truly hoped it would be 10,000 portions. Young Master Wang, this isn't about who's paying the bill. It's that this food isn't remotely worth 50 taels of silver. A few chunks of chicken and a couple slices of pork, and he's got the nerve to charge 50 taels? I've never seen such a brazenly shameless shop. Escort Liu had traveled far and wide for many years. What hasn't he seen? He had even eaten a dish that cost 500 taels of silver before. But that was when he accidentally stumbled into a scam inn while on an escort mission. He paid for it with a blade pressed against his throat. That was the greatest humiliation of his life. Because of that, he was especially sensitive to scam restaurants. Tisk, just look at these prices. Isn't this a total rip-off? Yeah, absolutely. HMPH, they should consider themselves lucky we don't smash this scam shop to pieces. The others chimed in agreement. So, are you guys going to eat or what? If you're not eating, get out. UG originally wanted to explain that it was 50 copper coins, not 50 taels. But when he heard that these guys actually wanted to smash his shop, he instantly lost all interest in explaining. He was just trying to make a few hard-earned bucks from them, and they dared to give him an attitude? Like he owed them something. Anyway, the restaurant business didn't seem that profitable. Honestly, if he didn't have so many leftover frozen ready meals, he would have already changed careers. Wouldn't opening a clinic be way better? He could buy local herbs on one side, and flip a batch of cold medicine and ibuprofen on the other. Maybe throw in some antibiotics too. Yeah, that's a guaranteed double profit. He might even become a legendary doctor in this ancient era. We are eating. Am I the young master here? Or are you guys the young master? Everyone, sit the hell down. Whatever you have to complain about, save it until after we eat. Boss, serve the dishes exactly as I ordered. Wang Zhen was genuinely terrified he wouldn't get to eat, so he fully unleashed his authority as the young master. He had personally experienced Yuji's unpredictable temper. A restaurant skipping breakfast service was one thing, but refusing to open for lunch too? Was that something a normal person would do? But, he had to admit, the guy definitely had the right to act all high and mighty. The food was just too damn good. If it weren't for these incredible dishes, he wouldn't have traveled over 100 miles just to get a single bite. At the end of the day, they still had to work under the young master. So, no matter how much the other guards complained, they had no choice but to sit down. Seeing this, Yuji didn't waste any time. He went straight to the kitchen, while Wang Zhen led his men to an empty table and took a seat. The escort agency was swamped with business, so there weren't many free guards around. Aside from the veteran Lu Qi, he had only brought 2 other men with him this time. One was named Chen, who was also a senior member of the agency. So, no matter how annoyed they were, once the young master gave an order, they wouldn't dare talk back to him. While all this chatter was happening, Xiao Qin had already scarfed down his rice and dishes. Having fully enjoyed his meal, he finally had a moment to come over and say hi to Wang Zhen. After all, Wang Zhen was his lucky star. If it hadn't been for him, he never would have met such a kind-hearted boss like Yu Ji. Whoa, aren't you that kid from yesterday? This place is crazy expensive. You can actually afford to eat here? Wang Zhen was completely shocked. Just what kind of person did he hire yesterday anyway? No. It's on the house. I help gather herbs, and the boss feeds me. Xiao Qin frantically waved his hands. What kind of rare herbs are you gathering? That gets you meals worth 50 taels a dish? Wang Zhen was stunned. Should he just change careers too? Just ordinary herbs, honestly. The boss is just super kind. He took pity on me, and gave me something to eat. Xiao Qin shook his head repeatedly. Him? Kind-hearted? 50 taels for a single dish. Man, his heart must be blacker than the bottom of an inkpot. Guard Chen was still young, and he just couldn't take listening to this anymore. It's really not that expensive. Just yesterday, there was a young lady who spent only 10 taels of silver on a single dish. The boss is actually a really reasonable guy. If you just speak to him nicely later, he might even give you a discount. Xiao Qin said meekly. Peeved. The others all spat out their drinks in unison. Just listen to her. Is she out of her mind? What do you mean, only 10 taels of silver? 10 taels is enough for a whole feast at the Taifeng restaurant. Do the people in this little town just treat money like dirt? Wow, it smells amazing. While they were still chatting, the microwave chef in the back had already finished cooking. 6 dishes were brought out, carrying a rich, mouth-watering aroma. This actually took the escorts by surprise. To be completely fair, the food might be ridiculously overpriced, but their serving speed was no joke. Taifeng restaurant definitely couldn't beat them on that. They serve food so slowly over there. You usually have to book in advance, otherwise you'll be waiting all day. 2 plates of kung pao chicken, 2 plates of twice-cooked pork, and 2 plates of sweet and sour pork. Here's a free pot of rice for you guys. That's everything. Yuji placed the food on the table with a deadpan expression. Let's dig in. Wang Zhen, who was already bursting with impatience, grabbed a pair of chopsticks from the holder and started stuffing his face. Just one bite was enough to bring him to tears. This is it. This was the exact flavor he had been obsessing over all day long. That sensation of the food dancing on the tip of his tongue, it was finally back. The others, however, weren't so convinced. The food smelled great, sure. But was there really any need to be so dramatic? Especially Chang-Chi. He had watched Wang Zhen grow up, so naturally, he wasn't going to fight him for his favorite food. Not to mention it was a ridiculously expensive dish that cost 50 taels. He had traveled far and wide in his life, and tried practically everything. Besides, at his age, his taste buds were already starting to fade. Nothing really tasted that good anymore anyway. So, he simply pulled out his flask and started sipping his wine. Guard Chen, who completely looked down on this place from the bottom of his heart, followed Lu Qi's lead and pulled out his flask too. Guard Deng, on the other hand, was much more easygoing. He never fought, never got greedy, and never lost his temper. If there was food, he'd eat it. So, he was the second person to pick up his chopsticks, right after Wang Zhen. Of course, he felt too awkward to touch a dish worth 50 taels, so he just scooped a bowl of rice from the pot next to them. He felt shy about taking the main courses, but since the rice was free, there was no harm in trying it. He had heard the young master mention earlier that the rice here was times better than Taifeng restaurants. He hadn't taken it seriously before, but the moment he took a bite, a rich, meaty aroma mixed with a hint of sweetness completely exploded in his mouth. Oh my god, was this really just plain white rice? Why did it taste completely different from anything he'd ever had? The texture, the flavor. Guard Deng's eyes widened in shock. He felt like he could finish this entire massive pot, just eating the plain rice alone. If the rice was this incredibly good, what about the actual food? With a flicker of anticipation, Guard Deng carefully reached out his guilty hand, the moment a piece of the twice-cooked pork hit his tongue. The rich, savory flavor of the fat, mixed with a bunch of incredibly complex spices, sent him straight to heaven. Delicious. This was absolutely divine. In that moment, he finally understood exactly how Wang Zhen felt. A dish like this, forget 50 taels, he'd eat it even if it cost 100. But wait, this dish just hit the table. How is half of it gone in the blink of an eye? Looking up, Wang Zhen had already gone into full berserk mode. His chopsticks were flying across the table, and in just a flash, another eighth of the food was wiped out. At this point, Master Deng couldn't care less about his manners. He unleashed the Phoenix Nod's 3 times strike straight at the plate in front of him. Pure, absolute madness. They brawled and snatched at the food, and in a mere 2 minutes, the 6 dishes on the table vanished right before the dumbfounded eyes of Master Chen and Lu Qi. Young Master Wang, I thought you were treating us to this meal. I'm taking 4 of these plates, and you get 2. Even after polishing off the food, they still craved more. Staring at the glistening, sauce-covered plates, the two of them instinctively started fighting over them. Bullshit, you agreed to just come with me to check this place out. Plus, I'm the one footing the bill. It should be 4 for me and 2 for you. But kidding aside, there was no way Wang Zhen was giving up those plates. Anyone could tell that leftover sauce would be absolutely heavenly mixed with rice. Since that was the case, then don't blame me for getting ruthless. May the best man win. Master Deng let out a wicked laugh, reaching out to snatch one first. HMPH, then don't expect any mercy from me. Wang Zhen wasn't about to back down either. He kicked Master Deng's stool right out from under him, snatching the upper hand. In the end, he barely managed to secure 4 plates. Master Chen, being the younger one, was so shell-shocked he just pointed at the two of them, completely speechless. Boss, get me a dish. I'll take the sweet and sour pork. Lu Qi, on the other hand, was a man of action. He couldn't help but get curious about how this food actually tasted. Too bad the plates in front of him had already been licked spotless. Even if he wanted a taste, there was nothing left. Left with no choice, he had to order a fresh dish. Exactly 3.5 minutes later, a juicy, mouth-watering plate of sweet and sour pork was brought to the table. Seeing Wang Zhen and Master Deng eyeing it like hungry wolves, Lu Qi just held the plate right in his hands. He didn't even dare put it down on the table. He knew for a fact he'd only get 1 bite if he did. Little did he know, he was about to be incredibly thankful for that decision. Because after just 1 bite, this sweet and sour pork absolutely blew his mind. That perfect sweet and sour kick. Even a guy like him, who had traveled the world his entire life, had never tasted anything like it. To think that a single dish could perfectly balance 2 incredibly distinct flavors. The tangy vinegar woke up his appetite, while cutting right through the heavy sweetness of the sugar. And at the same time, the sugar beautifully mellowed out the sharp, harsh bite of the vinegar. The combination of the two? A match made in absolute heaven. In an instant, Lu Qi surrendered completely to the sheer deliciousness. He devoured the entire plate of sweet and sour pork in a flash. And it didn't even survive 1 minute in his hands. Staring at the leftover sauce on the plate, he threw his pride out the window and yelled for a bowl of rice. Who cares about dignity? At his age, he wasn't afraid of looking like a fool anymore. Dumping the rice in, he practically vacuumed the plate clean. In the blink of an eye, another completely spotless plate joined the table. He actually licked it way cleaner than the other two did. Even after licking the plate dry, Lu Qi still couldn't get enough. He shot another glance at the empty plate on the table, looking like he wanted to lick it all over again. But considering he had already licked it 3 times, there really wasn't any flavor left. Otherwise, there was no way he'd be willing to put that plate down. You could say it was a total shame. Wait, Uncle Lu, why are you acting like this too? Guard Chen was completely baffled. The 2 guys who were just on his side, why did they suddenly switch sides? Little Chen, I actually think young Master Wang truly deserves to be our future boss. His eye for this stuff is absolutely incredible. Lu Qi didn't even bother explaining, but instead started praising Wang Zhen. Oh, absolutely. The young master's taste is seriously top-notch. To find a heavenly restaurant like this. From now on, our Weiyuan escort agency will definitely take the #1 spot. Guard Deng chimed in as well. You're flattering me. I just accidentally stood on the shoulders of giants. Honestly, the boss's cooking is just that good. It's just a shame, we can't eat this every single day. Wang Zhen humbly waved his hands down, putting on a look of profound sorrow. With food this amazing, going even 1 day without it would be pure torture. Boss, get me a plate of this twice-cooked pork too. Guard Chen finally couldn't hold back anymore. He didn't even care about the cost anymore. Right now, he just wanted to know one thing. Just how delicious is the food at this place? Exactly 3.5 minutes later, a mouth-watering plate of twice-cooked pork was brought to the table. However, he wasn't as street-smart as the veteran guard Lu Qi. He actually just let the plate sit right there on the table. He carefully reached out with his chopsticks and picked up a slice of pork. Glistening with oil, it honestly looked incredibly appetizing. As the meat entered his mouth, a rich, savory burst of flavor instantly spread across his tongue. The perfect mix of fat and lean meat was deliciously crispy on the outside, yet so incredibly tender and juicy on the inside, with such a rich, full-bodied taste. Every single chew brought him an overwhelming sense of satisfaction. He couldn't help but lose himself in it. This flavor was just so completely unique. It completely shattered his entire worldview of food. Was this really something that ordinary mortals like them were even allowed to taste? No, you couldn't even call this eating anymore. This was pure indulgence. But the moment he slowly finished savoring that single slice of pork and opened his eyes, he realized that the dish he just ordered had completely vanished, leaving absolutely nothing but a squeaky clean plate. Oh boy, they really did it now. These absolute vultures. They didn't even leave him a single drop of sauce. Which one of you touched my pork? Guard Chen roared in sheer frustration. The 3 guys at the table just stared down at the floor, acting like absolutely nothing had happened. But the beads of sweat on their foreheads made it painfully obvious that an all-out war had just taken place. Ahem, boss, check please. Put it all on my tab. In the end, Wang Zhen just couldn't sit still anymore. He called the boss over to pay the bill. After all, he was the future leader of this ragtag group. If he didn't show off a little now, how was he supposed to win their loyalty? That's 8 dishes in total, rice is on the house, so that comes out to 400 coins. Yuji didn't even need an abacus, rattling off the price without missing a beat. 400 coins? Wait, isn't it 50 taels per dish? Wang Zhen was absolutely stunned. That is not what we agreed on at all. What do you mean, 50 taels? It's 50 coins. Do you think I'm running some kind of scam here? A whole mess of dark lines popped up over his head. No matter how greedy he got, there was no way he'd mark up the price 50,000 times. Plus, these were literally pre-packaged meals straight off an assembly line. If he had even a shred of a conscience, at least he's not completely heartless. Didn't he just say 50 taels? Damn, I thought the price skyrocketed. It's only 50 coins a dish. Bring us more. Give me 10 more portions of every single dish. As Wang Zhen spoke, he finally realized that from the very beginning, the boss only said 50. He never actually said 50 taels. It was purely his own mouth getting ahead of him. Young Master Wang, that wasn't cool. Exactly. It's all your fault, we completely misunderstood. How is the boss running a scam shop? The man is basically running a charity, right? With dishes at this price. The boss is an absolute saint. One of the escorts threw the blame straight at Wang Zhen. His attitude did a complete 180-degree flip. Even though 50 coins a dish still isn't cheap. After the massive heart attack of 50 taels, what does 50 coins even matter? And most importantly, the food here is seriously amazing. Totally worth the money. Alright, it's all my fault. I was wrong, and I apologize. Here is 50 taels of silver. Consider it my tab for today's meal. Keep the change. If it's short, just let me know. Wang Zhen was a generous guy by nature. So naturally, his apology wasn't going to be stingy. His family's escort agency could sometimes pull in millions on a single run. He could afford a 50 taels dish without blinking. Naturally, he didn't care about this kind of pocket change. Coming right up. The food will be out in a second. Money really does make the world go round. Getting hit with 50 taels of silver. Yuji definitely wasn't going to slack off. A massive client like this. That's pure money walking in. Fully stuffed and happy. When evening rolled around, Wang Zhen gathered his crew and headed back the way they came. For the next little while, Yuji's restaurant was dead quiet. Aside from Wang Zhen occasionally bringing his guys over to chow down on a massive meal, he had absolutely zero business most of the time. Even when a passing merchant caravan popped in, the second they heard it was 50 coins a dish, they would instantly yank back the foot they just stepped through the door with and walk right out without ever looking back, zero hesitation whatsoever. Luckily, the current Yuji couldn't care less about those random walk-ins anyway. With the backing of the rich heiress and Wang Zhen, he had raked in over 200,000 in just a few short days. He hit his little shop's entire yearly quota right there. What more could a guy ask for? He even thought to himself, if they still couldn't finish the frozen goods in the freezer after 2 years, he might as well just flip it all to Wang Zhen. Charge him a cool 800 or 1,000 taels of gold. And he could just lay in bed scrolling on his phone for the rest of his life. Of course, that was just a pipe dream. He'd cross that bridge when he got to it. Now, aside from the food business, his herbal medicine hustle hit a bit of a wall. Wild herbs actually need a full growth cycle, after all. Aside from the massive haul right at the start that made him over 100,000, the herbs were getting harder and harder to find. It couldn't be helped, the easy ones were already picked clean. The rest were either completely out of reach, or miles deep into the mountains. It basically took him several days just to scrape together one basket to sell. But honestly, this was exactly what Yuji wanted. If he kept pulling in massive piles of herbs every single day, it would look way too suspicious. It was already getting hard enough to explain where all these wild herbs were coming from. While Yuji didn't really care, Little Chin definitely took it to heart. She took a few days off, apparently heading out to visit relatives in the neighboring villages. He's probably planning to gather more people to help collect herbs. As for this matter, Yuji didn't bother stopping him. His childhood friend, Li Tongren's family, doesn't just run one tiny traditional Chinese medicine clinic, but hundreds of pharmacies all over the country. The shortage of wild herbs is massive, so they can buy up as much as they get. You could say they never turn anyone away. Little Chin bringing people in means he can make a buck for himself. And as for Yuji, it goes without saying, this is the absolute most he's ever made as a middleman. Why on earth would he stop such a perfect three-way win? No, actually, it's not just a three-way win. The kids helping to pick herbs make money, and the sick patients using real herbs get cured. You could easily call it a 5, 6, 7, or even 8-way win. Even if he's not a god of medicine, it's still an act of boundless merit. While Yuji's life over here was super comfortable, someone else's life wasn't going quite so smoothly. At the Shui Manor, crash. That was the sound of a vase hitting the floor. Shattered porcelain scattered all over the eldest Miss Shui Xinyue's room, making this usually serene young lady actually raise an eyebrow. Because, this wasn't the first time it happened. Counting this month, this was already the third smashed vase. For the past few days, she had no idea what was wrong with her maid, Xiao Chun. She was acting completely possessed. She couldn't even comb hair properly, and she'd totally mess up the water temperature when drawing a bath. Even when just serving tea, either the cup was overflowing, or the tea got spilled. Simply put, everything was just a mess. This servant deserves to die. Xiao Chun snapped back to reality, and dropped to her knees with a heavy thud. Even though she was the young lady's personal maid, and they had grown up together, there was still a strict line between master and servant. Their status was completely different. If the young lady broke a vase, she broke a vase. It was just an object. But for servants like her, they were basically the master's belongings too, on the exact same level as the vase. Because of that, whatever her fate would be, depended entirely on her master's mood. Sigh, just get up, Xiao Chun. Let me ask you, have you caught feelings for someone? Xiao Chun was born into the household, a loyal servant for 3 generations. Her whole family lived with the Shui family. Because of their childhood bond, Shui Xinyue wouldn't be too harsh on her, but she was genuinely curious about what was going on with her maid. A family emergency? She could rule that out right away. Xiao Chun's family was doing just fine working in the manor. If anything had happened, she'd definitely know. Since it wasn't family, she must be pining for a man. Which was totally understandable. 15 or 16 is exactly the age for a young girl to start having crushes. Taking a liking to some handsome, talented guy made sense. She was just a bit worried this silly girl might get played. If she got scammed for her money and her body, that was one thing, but getting her heart broken would be real trouble. No, no, no. How could I? I am your dowry maid, miss. Since you haven't married yet. Wait, no. Even if you did get married, that would be impossible. Xiao Chun shook her head frantically, her face burning bright red. She was just a young girl after all. The second romance was brought up, she got horribly shy and embarrassed. Oh, don't worry about it. Even though you're my personal maid, you and I are practically sisters. If you've really caught feelings for some handsome young man, I'd happily return your contract, so you two can run off and be together. But of course, that's only after I get to meet him first. I need to properly judge his character, Shui Xinyue said with complete sincerity. No, no, no. My lady, please stop guessing so wildly. I really don't have a sweetheart. As Xiaochen spoke, her face turned brighter and brighter red. And you still say no? Your face is as red as a monkey's bottom. Let me guess. Uncle Lu's youngest son? Nah, highly unlikely. If something was going to happen there, it would have happened ages ago. What about that boy from the Zhang family? No, that's not it either. With a face like his, there's no way you'd be interested. So, it must be someone from outside the estate. But we haven't really gone out much lately. Oh, don't tell me. You've got your eyes on that restaurant owner, haven't you? Shui Xinyue pieced it together step by step. The more she thought about it, the more shocked she became. The only time they had gone out recently was to burn incense at the temple. And that was a nunnery. Along the entire way, aside from their carriage driver, they hadn't seen a single male soul. The one and only man they actually interacted with was that restaurant owner. When she thought about his age, and pictured his looks, well, honestly, besides his slightly sharp tongue, he really did have the kind of charm that could make a girl fall for him at first sight. It's absolutely him, no doubt about it. My lady, where are you even getting this from? How could I possibly like him? That black-hearted swindler. The blush on Xiao Chun's face completely vanished, leaving behind only a deeply conflicted expression. Truth be told, before she tasted his food, she probably would have despised the owner. But after trying the dishes at his place, her thoughts had completely flipped. Even though the owner was a bit of a crook, he wasn't entirely bad. At the very least, that food was genuinely worth the outrageous prices. It's really not him? Shui Xinyue wasn't buying it. It really is not, Xiaochen replied decisively. Then why have you been so absent-minded these past few days? What's going on that you can't tell me? Shui Xinyue remained skeptical, but she played along and asked anyway. Well, it's actually nothing serious. I just wanted to leave the estate for a bit. I wanted to ask for some time off. Xiaochen looked a little embarrassed. She had been tossing and turning in bed for days. Waking or sleeping, the only thing on her mind was going back to eat at that restaurant one more time. Because of this craving, she had completely lost her appetite for anything else, and hadn't gotten a good night's sleep in days. Without proper sleep, she was naturally completely drained of energy. No wonder she kept dropping the ball at work lately. But seriously though, that food was just ridiculously good. Once you take a bite, you just want more. Alright, permission granted. Go on, off you go. I don't need much help around here anyway. Besides, we have plenty of other maids around to help out. So go on, take the day off and enjoy yourself. Shui Xinyue agreed cheerfully and without hesitation. Wait, really? Xiaochen was absolutely overjoyed. She thought getting permission to leave the estate was going to be a huge hassle. I can't believe Miss agreed so easily. This is great. I can finally eat that delicious food I've been dreaming about. Of course it's true. Go on, then. Go right now. Shui Xinyue nodded, and briskly pushed Xiaochen out the door. Xiaochen ran outside, absolutely thrilled. Nanny Wu, follow her. Be careful, don't let her spot you. See exactly where she goes and who she meets. The moment Xiaochen left, Shui Xinyue's smile instantly vanished. She was going to find out exactly which man had stolen her little maid's heart away. If he truly cared for her, that was one thing. But if he was just some scumbag after her money and body, then he couldn't blame her for tearing them apart. That's right. Even now, she was absolutely convinced that Xiaochen was lovesick. After all, no normal person would ever imagine that someone could be so obsessed with a single dish that they'd go completely crazy over it. Outside the Shui estate. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Outside the Shui estate. Xiaochen weighed the heavy coin purse in her hand, happily skipping and bouncing all the way toward the restaurant. She didn't notice the sneaky figure tailing her from behind at all. Right now, her heart and eyes were completely filled with nothing but a desperate craving for that delicious food. This purse held all of her life savings from over the years, and this time, she was absolutely determined to eat to her heart's content at that restaurant. However, when she arrived outside the front doors, she hesitated. She had just talked tough, swearing she'd never come back here again. And how long had it even been? If she just walked right in now, wouldn't that be a blatant slap in her own face? She was a young girl, after all, so her pride was a little fragile. Seeing this play out, Nanny Wu, who was tailing her, became even more certain of her Mrs. theory. Just as the miss predicted, her pausing at the door looked exactly like the shyness of a young girl right before meeting her secret lover. Oh, she's even getting all bashful now, fixing her hair. And even putting on makeup. Nanny Wu grew more and more positive about her hunch. You have to understand, this little maid never dressed up on normal days. To spend so much time and effort on her makeup today, if you said it wasn't to see a man, who would believe it? Up ahead, Xiaoqun had absolutely no idea that the Nanny Wu following her was having such wild, dramatic thoughts in her head. If she had known, she definitely would have screamed bloody murder. She was only powdering her face and letting her hair down because she simply didn't want the restaurant boss to recognize her. Otherwise, it would be way too embarrassing. She adjusted her hair and patted a thick layer of scented powder all over her face. Taking out a mirror to check her reflection, she finally looked somewhat different from usual. Only then did Xiaoqun pack away her mirror with relief and slowly stepped through the front doors of the restaurant. I feel like I've seen this sister before. Wait, aren't you the maid of that lady in the carriage from last time? The moment she walked in, the boss's familiar and incredibly annoying voice rang out across the room. How did you recognize me? Xiaoqun asked in sheer panic. With the makeup she just put on, even she couldn't recognize herself in the mirror. Yet he saw right through her disguise at a single glance. This restaurant boss was terrifyingly sharp. You haven't even changed your clothes. It'd be hard not to recognize you. Anyway, let's drop that. About the food from last time. Your young lady didn't eat it, right? Compared to Xiaoqun's absolute terror, Yuji was the one truly panicking inside. After not seeing her for so many days, the maid actually showed up at his door, looking like a literal ghost. Could it be her young lady actually ate those pre-made meals and got sick? And now she's here to cause trouble? What do I do? Should I drag her to a modern hospital to get her stomach pumped? Wait, how did you know my young lady didn't eat it? Hearing Yuji say this, Xiaoqun was even more stunned. Was this guy a mind reader? How did he know she had eaten the entire dish all by herself that day? How would I know? I'm literally asking you right now. Oh, thank goodness. As long as your young lady didn't eat it, we're good. I told you before, my food isn't exactly sanitary. Since your young lady didn't eat it, then why did you come back? Hearing the words, didn't eat, Yuji instantly breathed a sigh of relief. As long as the young lady didn't eat it, everything was fine. Since she didn't eat his food, no matter what happened, it wouldn't be pinned on him. How can you be so incredibly petty? Hearing Yuji bring up the unsanitary comment again, Xiaoqun was so upset that tears welled up in her eyes. I just said it was unsanitary once. Do you really have to hold a grudge about it for this long? How am I being petty? Yuji felt incredibly frustrated. He was actually a very generous guy. Is it just because I called your food unsanitary last time? We already apologized to you, and we even paid you. Why are you still holding on to this? Xiaoqun cried out, wiping away her tears. The makeup that was already a total mess on her face started to run, making her look exactly like a weeping ghost. But my food really is unsanitary. You'll probably get diarrhea if you eat it. Yuji was completely speechless. Why does no one believe the truth these days? Stop saying that. Xiaoqun was genuinely crying from frustration now. Okay. I'll stop talking, I'll stop. As long as your young lady is okay, that's all that matters. But since she's totally fine, why did you even come here? Whenever a young girl cried, Yuji always felt like some kind of creepy uncle. I want to eat your food. Xiaoqun said weakly. Eat my food? Absolutely not. Hearing that she wanted his food, Yuji rejected her on the spot. It was a miracle nothing went wrong last time. If he sold it to her now and something bad happened, who would take the blame? But why? Xiaoqun never expected Yuji to shut her down so fast. Didn't I just tell you? It's unsanitary. Why couldn't this little girl just understand? Yuji felt extremely exasperated. Unsanitary? I'm the one who ate that entire meal last time. Don't you think I'd know whether your food is unsanitary or not? You're just being incredibly cheap. You just want to get back at me. Wah, please, boss. I was totally wrong. I'll even get on my knees and apologize to you, okay? Wah, ever since I had your food the other day, I haven't been able to eat or sleep. All I want is just one more bite of your cooking. I've been thinking about this so much these past few days that I couldn't even focus on my work. If this keeps up, my master is going to kick me out. Wah, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong now. Please, I'm begging you. Please be generous and forgive me. Just let me have one meal. Just one. Otherwise, I won't be able to focus on anything else. Xiao Chun cried, dropping to his knees. Hey, don't kneel. I can't handle that, and you really shouldn't put it that way. My restaurant is a legitimate business. Hearing you talk like that, people who don't know any better might think we spiked our food with something. The more Yuji listened, the weirder it sounded. Sure, his dishes were packed with modern artificial additives, but that was it. There was absolutely nothing illegal in there. What did he mean, losing his appetite for everything else? They were just cheap, pre-packaged meals. How could they be that irresistible? Weren't those the kind of things that even a dog would refuse to eat? Little did he know, cooking in this era completely lacked that kind of seasoning. Even the grandest restaurants in the capital would at most use a bit of lard and a pinch of salt. Even using cooking wine, scallions, ginger, and garlic to remove the gamey taste was a secret technique far beyond the reach of ordinary people. Not to mention the huge modern discovery that pork tastes vastly better when the pigs are castrated first. In an ancient era where food was considered good as long as it was cooked, that massive pile of modern seasonings was basically an absolute cheat code. It was just like a pet dog. Before it ever tastes human leftovers. If you feed it plain, tasteless kibble, it'll eat it just fine. But once it gets a taste of those leftovers and experiences the delicious food that humans eat, and you try to make it go back to eating kibble, it won't even give it a second glance. Why? Because it's completely tasteless. If you don't sell to me, I'm not getting up. Xiao Chun stubbornly stuck his neck out, throwing all his pride out the window. Who cares about pride? Is pride more important than a good meal? Alright. I'll let you eat. But don't blame me if you get a stomach ache. And another thing, my prices have gone up. It's 50 coins a dish now. If you think that's too expensive, there's the door. Yuji was completely exasperated. What kind of nonsense was this? Not expensive at all. Boss, your food is the absolute best. I'll take 3 plates. No, 7 plates. Xiao Chun scrambled to his feet, counting on his fingers. 7 plates? Can you even finish all that? Yuji looked at Xiao Chun's scrawny frame, asking skeptically, if I can't finish it, I'll get it to go. Xiao Chun replied quickly, no way, no takeout. Takeout is 10 silver pieces a portion. You get 3 plates, and that's it. Take it or leave it. All of Yuji's food was frozen. So if he packed it up to go, it would definitely get cold and taste completely weird. It would have that weird refrozen texture. Once these dishes are heated up, it was flash frozen to begin with, and reheating it has already ruined its frozen state. If we wait for it to cool down, bacteria will just multiply. Even if it's reheated again, let alone the taste, the chances of getting food poisoning go way up. Fine, 3 plates it is, I'll eat them. Having food to eat is good enough. Xiao Chun didn't dare to be picky. At worst, she could just beg her lady to let her out a few more times. This place isn't far at all. She could easily run over. Just wait. Yuji headed back into the kitchen. Another familiar 3 minutes passed. Ding. Kung Pao chicken, sweet and sour pork, and twice cooked pork. 3 delicious dishes came right out. Wow, this is awesome. It looks so delicious. Thank you, boss. As soon as the food hit the table, Xiao Chun couldn't wait and started stuffing her face, making Yuji shake his head in disbelief. The twice cooked pork is way too greasy, the calories are off the charts. For the Kung Pao chicken, the meat was deep fried, and they even used ketchup. This dish isn't authentic at all. And don't even get me started on the sweet and sour pork. The glaze is way too thick, it totally ruins the crunch. How can these 3 dishes even be called good? One look and you know she's no real foodie. So yummy. This meal took Xiao Chun a full hour to finish before she finally walked out, completely satisfied. Back at the Shui Manor. By this time, Nanny Wu had already rushed back ahead of her to report. Are you absolutely sure about what you saw? Shui Xinyue played with the prayer beads in her hand. As she asked, I saw it with my own 2 eyes. The moment Xiao Chun left the house, she headed straight for that restaurant, clutching a bulging money bag in her hands. Right before walking in, she spent a whole incense stick's worth of time just getting dolled up. She was slapping powder on her face like it was free, and she kept fixing her hair over and over. Then she went inside and stayed there for over an hour. When she finally came back out, her hair was all a mess. Her money bag was noticeably lighter, and she had this goofy, lovesick grin plastered all over her face. If you ask me, it's exactly like you guessed, my lady. That little girl is definitely pining for a man. Nanny Wu reported everything she had seen in full detail. Are you sure she wasn't just going to the restaurant to eat? Shui Xinyue asked, still a bit doubtful. Not a chance. Who on earth takes more than an hour just to eat a meal by themselves? And who takes a whole incense stick's time to get dressed up just to eat? Besides, Xiao Chun has never been a gluttonous girl. Normally, she's super disciplined. She wouldn't even take 1 extra bite of food. Nanny Wu shook her head repeatedly. Alright, I got it. You can go now. Oh, and by the way, go look into that restaurant owner. Find out what his background is. See if he's genuinely interested or just out to con her for her money. If he's just a swindler, HMPH. A ruthless gleam flashed in Shui Xinyue's eyes. As you wish, my lady. Nanny Wu backed out of the room. The moment she left, Xiaochen just happened to return. Oh, Xiaochen, looks like your little trip out put you in a pretty good mood, huh? Shui Xinyue studied the girl's face closely. It was obvious she had just scrubbed it clean. There was even a little makeup still clinging to her hairline, and that heavy scent of cheap perfume on her only proved exactly what Nanny Wu had just said. The little rascal had dressed herself up. She had tried to wash it off before coming back, but that goofy grin on her face? She couldn't hide that at all. He, don't you worry, miss. I won't mess up ever again. I promise I'll work super hard. Xiaochen completely dodged the question, just giggling like a fool. So, what exactly did you do today? Shui Xinyue pressed on. Just eating, at that same restaurant from last time. Xiaochen rambled on and on, making a whole fuss about it. Like hell Shui Xinyue was going to believe that. Who gets that ecstatic over a meal? Who eats for that long? And who paints their face full of makeup just to grab a bite? Yeah, right, and all that nonsense about heavenly dishes? Out of this world flavors? Pure absolute bullshit. Talking that much was a dead giveaway that she was feeling guilty. Right now, Xiaochun's rambling excuses sounded exactly like a teenager trying to hide a secret boyfriend from her parents. The more she talked, the guiltier she looked. Still, Shui Xinyue decided not to bust her just yet. You need the loot to catch a thief. And you need to catch them red-handed to prove they're sneaking around. Once she got cold, hard proof, we'd see how this little brat tries to talk her way out of it. Over the next few days, Xiaochen kept asking for time off to go out and eat. Shui Xinyue played along and let her go. What she needed was the perfect moment to strike. And that moment required patience, but more importantly, it required some digging first. Meanwhile, the restaurant carried on as usual. Though Yuji's operating hours were getting wildly unpredictable, he only really had a couple of regulars anyway. Honestly, it didn't even matter if he opened shop or not. Besides Xiaochen popping in every few days, the only other guy was Wang Zhen, who dropped by every so often to treat his escort crew to a big feast. Come to think of it, Wang Zhen was his most frequent customer. Whenever the guy had free time, he'd come galloping over. You had to feel bad for the poor horse carrying him all the time. One day, Wang Zhen showed up again. Except, this time, he wasn't alone. He had brought his entire, massive armed convoy with him. Boss, bring out the food, service up all your absolute best dishes and drinks. Wang Zhen bellowed the second he walked through the door, acting totally like he owned the place. Oh, wow, that's a lot of guys. You heading out on a long trip? Yuji eyed the massive, sprawling squad of dozens of men. Gotta admit, they looked pretty damn impressive. Right in the middle of the convoy sat a few heavy carriages, loaded up with over a dozen locked chests. They looked incredibly heavy, clearly holding some seriously valuable stuff. Yeah, man, this run is gonna take us a good few months. Which means it'll be a really long time before we get to taste your amazing cooking again, boss. Wang Zhen said, sounding incredibly frustrated. But, he still knew his priorities. Food was just food, after all. His real job was keeping the escort agency running. Hanging around to eat and drink was fine when he had free time. But when duty called, he had to hit the road for an escort mission. Otherwise, their massive family business would go bankrupt in just a few generations. Duty comes first. Where are you heading this time, though? Yuji nodded, asking casually. I've got a shipment to run down to Chenzhou. It's not too far of a trip, but the south is a total mess right now. I'm afraid the road ahead won't be safe. Wang Zhen shook his head. Looking rather gloomy, Yuji was confused. Ever since he arrived in Kahuo town, he hadn't ever left its borders. So he was completely clueless about the outside world. Still, life in Kahuo town seemed pretty peaceful. Sure, it was a little poor, but it was fine. He figured the rest of the world was exactly the same. Yeah, even though the royal court has been trying hard to let the country recover these past few years. The south is nothing but mountains and rivers. You just can't grow crops there. If the merchants and the court weren't shipping grain down from the north, they would have starved a long time ago. But lately, the north has been hit by either massive droughts or terrible floods. They barely have enough food for themselves, so naturally, they can't supply the south anymore. Now the whole place is overrun by bandits taking over the mountains. It's a total mess. Wang Zhen sighed deeply. For armed escorts like him, this kind of chaos was both a blessing and a curse. The good news was that the agency was getting way more business. The bad news, of course, was that the danger level had skyrocketed. Long story short, everybody is struggling in their own way. Alright, I get it. Just be careful out there. Yuji really didn't know what else to say about the whole situation. He wasn't a savior. He couldn't save the whole world. Even back in his modern world, there were still people starving in certain countries. If they didn't have their own modern-day god of agriculture, things back home probably wouldn't be much better either. Oh, I'm not worried about me. With my martial arts skills, no matter what happens, even if I can't win a fight, I can definitely still make a run for it. Honestly, I'm more worried about you. If things really hit the fan and the riots spread to the capital, it's going to get really dangerous for you here. Have you ever thought about moving your business to the capital? With cooking skills like yours, you'd absolutely crush it over there. Wang Zhen had been wanting to drag Yu Ji back to the capital with him for ages. He was just using this chance to test the waters. Nope, I'm not going anywhere. Are you kidding? His kitchen couldn't exactly pack up and move with him. What was the point of going to the capital? Would the capital really be any safer than right here? If anyone actually came looking for trouble, he could just jump straight back to the modern world. Lock the blast door, and absolutely no one would be able to lay a finger on him. That's right, it wasn't just some standard security door. It was a bank vault-grade blast door. Lately, whenever he had some free time, he had gone out of his way to hire a crew to install it right in his kitchen. As long as he locked it tight, not even a bomb could blow it open. He was perfectly safe, even if the installation crew had absolutely no idea why on earth a kitchen needed a blast door. But hey, when you're getting paid to do a job, everyone's got their own little quirks. They choose to respect it. Even if they don't respect the quirks, they still gotta respect the money, right? Honestly, this door wasn't originally built to keep out refugees anyway. It was mainly put up to stop thieves. That way, even if a burglar breaks into the restaurant at night, Cheng Nong wouldn't be able to follow him back to the modern world, which definitely helps Yuji sleep a lot better at night. Alright, I knew you'd say that. Well, there's one more thing I need to remind you about. The spring exams that happen every 3 years are right around the corner. Hordes of scholars are already packing up to head to the capital. You'd better start getting ready too. Wang Zhen let out a bitter smile. It seemed like his dream of having total food freedom right at his doorstep was completely out of the question. The spring exams? Don't those start next year? It's only March right now. We still have a whole year to go. Besides, I'm not taking the imperial exams. So what exactly do I need to prepare for? Yuji asked, looking completely baffled. Listen to you, you're running a restaurant, aren't you? Kahuo Town is basically a mandatory pit stop on the road to the capital. Every single time, massive crowds of scholars pass right through here. Though, to be fair, lately they've been taking a detour around the neighboring town. But that's mainly because, before this, our town didn't have any decent places to eat or sleep. But now that you've opened up shop, who knows, people might just start coming. Actually, no, people are definitely going to come. Wang Zhen said with absolute certainty. I mean, come on. Those broke, starving scholars? Are you seriously sure they can even afford my food? You really couldn't blame Yuji for being skeptical. In all the novels he'd read, not a single scholar had a dime to their name. They were always scamming rich young ladies, pretty girls at the brothels, or just mooching off their poor, long-suffering wives back home. That was the only way they could scrape together enough travel money for the capital. And even then, they had to pinch every single penny. Could guys like that really afford his 50 coin dishes? That seemed like a massive stretch. Are you kidding me? The folks heading to the spring exams are esteemed provincial graduates. There are plenty of wealthy merchants along the way who are more than happy to foot their bills. Of course, that kind of money always comes with strings attached, so most of them still prefer to pay their own way. But most of those graduates already have a steady income anyway, so naturally, they can afford a good meal. However, you're right that the spring exams are still a ways off. What I'm actually telling you to prepare for are the autumn exams. I won't lie to you. I got some inside info from the capital. A few places down south have been hit hard by disasters. The refugees are rioting and the local government has completely lost control over them. A lot of those areas can't even host the autumn exams now. So, the imperial court held a meeting and decided to have them all come up to the capital for their tests. That way, once they finish the autumn exams, they can dive straight into prepping for the spring ones. It saves everyone the hassle of traveling back and forth, Wang Zhen said, dropping his voice to a whisper. But, what about the ones who fail? Yuji asked, looking a bit puzzled. Fail? If they fail, they just drag themselves back home. In this day and age, your title is your status. As for whether ordinary people live or die, do you really think the court gives a damn about all that? Wang Zhen said, completely matter of fact. Alright, but if that's the case, wouldn't those autumn scholars be even poorer? I bet they'd have an even harder time affording a meal here. So what exactly am I supposed to be preparing for? Yuji rolled his eyes. I told you, there are wealthy merchants. And aside from the graduates, even promising scholars get backed by wealthy merchants. It's called an investment. Besides, you could invest in a few promising ones yourself. When they make it big, they could write a nice inscription for your restaurant. Hang up a plaque or something, and wouldn't your business just start booming? Who knows, 100 years from now, it might even become a legendary tale. Wang Zhen looked at him, utterly frustrated by his lack of ambition. No need, I couldn't care less about all that. Yu Ji waved his hand, looking completely indifferent to fame and fortune. As if anyone could rely on those broke, pedantic scholars. If he really wanted to get famous, he'd be better off just writing his own poems. Just slap on some legendary, timeless quotes. And be a shameless copycat. Now that sounded pretty sweet. It was guaranteed to be way better than the pretentious nonsense those broke scholars wrote. Alright. So you don't care about all that. But you do care about money, right? Wang Zhen let out another heavy sigh. He honestly never expected that Yu Ji would be so ridiculously stubborn. Why was it so damn hard just to hand out a favor? Now that, I do care about. But didn't you say they were broke? Yu Ji nodded. He definitely wanted the money. Exactly, they're broke. And that is exactly why we can make money off them. Wang Zhen stated it as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Now that just completely confused me.